What are we talking about, by the way?
Oh my God, it's episode 150. So excited to be doing Hotline League right now. And, you know, I appreciate everyone watching live because I realized there was a major thing that happened today. World of Warcraft Shadowlands came out. That's very exciting. Anyway, let's go ahead and introduce my constant co-host, Mark Zimmerman. How's it going, Mark?
I'm doing the tweet, and you gave me inspiration for what the tweet's going to be. So I guess I'll finish that tweet in a second. It's going good. I've just been grinding Rhythm of War. I am about to start the 4th section, which is like 850 pages in.
All right. Well,
Travis is in chapter 1, I think.
I'm in chapter 5.
Oh shit!
I want to savor this a little bit. All right, but I will say there's some hype stuff starting off already. I won't give any spoilers because people are not into the series, so it's fine. We are also joined this week by Hunter from Golden Guardians. How's it going, Hunter?
I'm excellent. How are you all?
Good.
I guess you already said. It's good to be here.
What is your title?
Thank you for having me.
Golden Guardians.
Sorry? Oh, my title?
Yeah.
Head of esports. I'm head of esports for the Golden State Warriors, which is all of our esports efforts. Golden Guardians, a 2K team, which is under.
Can I just call you like the CEO of Golden? You're like the Golden
Guardians.
I
think
CEO.
my counterparts in day-to-day sort of operations are more like the Jack, Steve, Andy tier, but from a like legal standpoint, I'm not an owner of the organization, so somewhere in between.
We're here with the owner of Golden Guardians, Hunter
of Golden State Warriors.
Yes,
that's right.
He owns Golden State Warriors.
That's right.
To talk about some of their moves in the offseason. Both Golden State Warriors and Golden Guardians. So if you have a GSW move, he can elaborate on it. This episode is obviously brought to you by Alienware. And by the way, it is 150 episodes. Mark, did you ever think we'd do 150 episodes?
I didn't think we'd ever get here, and I have felt every step of the way.
Don't know what that means. I should say, by the way, that Hunter and I are former colleagues. We worked at GameSpot together and then at Yahoo Esports. And we also did a show previously called Esports and Chill, of which I am wearing the hoodie today for. I don't know if I can. It's not going to work, but it says Esports and Chill on the back. All right. Just people can know that's.
It was a good time. It was a bad show. It was sort of the precursor for this show in some ways.
Very loosely,
I would say.
A bunch of lazy friends who didn't want to do the show with me, but felt obligated to do it every week, and I guilted them. So yeah, it's very similar in many ways. But yeah, we're going to be talking about all of the off-season stuff. Mark, anything happened this week besides Rhythm of War that was really exciting for you? Roster news? I mean, a bunch of stuff got confirmed.
Right. That's what I was going to say is like, it's weird because a lot of the big moves are already kind of known. And so at that point, it's just about like whatever videos the orgs are tweeting out to kind of hype it up. But it's not like new news. I think some of the TSM stuff has been interesting because it sounds like some of that their planning has come apart potentially. So, I mean, there is a lot of stuff now that's confirmed. Maybe we can speculate a little bit more, but I don't know if any. Do you still have a spreadsheet that you've been tracking, or have you stopped doing that?
I've not been updating the spreadsheet. I froze the spreadsheet because I pay attention to. I watch and consume 538 content, and they freeze their model right before the election. So I felt like, much like Nate Silver, it was my responsibility to freeze the spreadsheet.
Scientific accuracy requires.
Yes, exactly. People can go back and reflect on my spreadsheet.
You should make a second sheet of things that have been confirmed, so I have an easier way of tracking it, so you can do all the work.
I think there's a subreddit, like pinned topic that has a bunch of that stuff. So
I think that's true. I think most of what everybody had before free agency day has panned out. There haven't been a ton of surprises. I think the biggest surprise is that TSM's lineup isn't known yet. And that could be for a lot of different reasons. But if I had to guess, I think based on the difference that the one week has made, that's the biggest one, is that that team hasn't seemingly announced or shored up its roster yet.
Yeah.
There's been also some like drama, I guess you could say, between G2 and Fnatic about Ocelote not really entertaining Fnatic's offer, even though Fnatic admitted that based off the buyout that C9 went with, they probably couldn't have outbid them or whatever. But it wasn't even like they had a chance, it sounds like. And then Carlos was or Ocelote was memeing about, why would I even entertain them? They're my league. And like, I don't know, it'd be cool with another kind of head, like I said, whatever we want to designate Hunter, head of an org, and like his perspective on the reasoning.
So we should probably say, by the way, Hunter will be here for the first hour of the show. So I think Mark and I will talk to him a little bit. And then if people have calls about the Golden Guardians moves, which we can discuss in a moment, or just about offseason from a owner, CEO, team operator standpoint, we can do that as well. In the second half of the show, it'll just be Mark and I, and we will be opening up to pretty broad calls about all sorts of different stuff. I think there is a ton to talk about because now that things are starting to get confirmed, I mean, I released a video today just talking about the number of veterans in the space who I don't think will be getting a start potentially. I mean, what was it? I tweeted earlier, I'm pulling it up. There's a chance where we don't see Hanser, Bjergsen, Biofrost, Sneaky, Meteosic, Smithy, or Doublelift competing in the LCS next year. None of those players, right? So it's just crazy. Like, those are almost all the stars of the league.
Yeah, your video on Reddit, there's the top comment has like the entire list, and it's actually like, those are a lot of the heavy hitters, but it's like 15 players.
It's not even the entire list. I think they didn't include all. Maybe they did, but I think
they include names like Poom
and some
Viper.
Of those will probably still end up on teams, right? Like between Solo, Hanser, and Fake God, I think one of those will end up on Dig. I've been hearing Fake God, but we will see how things pan out.
Right.
So we'll talk about that in the second half of the show. But first, Hunter, you guys officially announced your lineup. Was it today? I think it was today.
Yeah, we did today at noon, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I will say you guys are getting a lot of hype around it, which is very funny because I think if you had announced this roster a year ago, you have been flamed incredibly hard for it. So I don't know, what's today been like for you?
I think a relief. It's been a roller coaster of an offseason for sure. And yeah, I definitely think a relief. I think in a lot of ways we kind of did announce a roster like this a year ago in some ways. And we did get a lot of flame for it. And I think that's, if there's anything that came out of 2020, the ups and the downs and where we ended up is that I think, based on today at least, I think we've built some benefit of the doubt in the community in a way that we maybe didn't have a year ago, that we kind of know what we're doing, and that at least Nick does, and that maybe we're going to do something good this year potentially.
Nick being an arrow.
Nick being an arrow, sorry, yeah. And that is nice, and kind of ends the roller coaster on the note that I think was all we could have hoped for as it progressed, which is optimism, a certain amount of confidence, and really looking ahead.
So for those that are listening to this, maybe they just listen to the podcast once a week or something, they missed the announcement. What is your roster?
Yeah, so we're starting 2 players from the Maryville collegiate team, Niles and Iconic at top and jungle. We're promoting a Blaze Olive from Academy to our mid lane. We acquired Xerxe from CLG, and we're putting him at bot. And we acquired Newbie from a Lad AM team, and we're putting him at support. Honestly, it's like a really interesting mix, and I'm really excited about how it came together. We looked at a lot of these players for originally, we ran like a big combine, heading into this offseason, originally kind of looking for the kind of amateur and academy tier, which wasn't announced at the time. And we sort of couched all this, and we invited 55 total players in from sort of up and down that kind of competitive scene. And a lot of these guys caught our eye right away when we didn't think this was the direction our offseason was going, and sort of have maybe slotted them for academy, or who knows about the amateur system as we saw kind of the rule set finalize and what it was going to look like. And it just turned out that our offseason went in a really different direction, and we were able to get them for the main roster instead.
Vasilim in the chat, who's a frequent person on this channel, he a week ago I predicted Niles to your starting position based off of stuff I was hearing, and he said there's no way that happens. I will give 20 subs in the chat if it happens. Now it has been revealed, and he's still refusing because he says that he's going to wait until the very first week because he doesn't believe it. So how confident are you? When do I get these 20 subs?
I mean, he might as well do it now, dude. We announced it. Like, it's legit. It's happening.
Okay,
so
give me my money, Vasilem.
Yeah.
After he does it, you can cut him. Once the subs come through, the underhand agreement between you two is good. You can stop. Putting in
yeah,
player,
exactly.
right?
That's right. Yes, I've made a deal with Hunter. He's going to falsely announce this top laner. I get.
Who was
subs.
it again? Niles?
Yeah,
Niles.
yeah.
That's the guy. That's the one.
Yeah,
sub train. Let's go.
Yeah. All right. Very good. Anyway, Mark, I don't know if you have some questions for Hunter before we get into it. I have a couple more, but I know I've been sort of
no. I mean, you can keep
conversation.
Yeah, you can keep hogging him. I mean, I watched the video. I think a lot of the questions / takes I would have are ones that are probably going to be had by the community anyways. So I'll probably just reserve those to callers. And
I mean, let's stick say one. I assume there'll be one of those, or if you don't have one, I can handle that up front or at the end or some point. I feel like that would be on there. And then anything else people want to talk about, systemic stuff, broader ecosystem things. I'm we went into this offseason thinking, especially the way it went, that we'd kind of turn over a fresh leaf of transparency around at least our thinking. And what happened to us is it was going to be difficult to just like roll out this lineup and with a big thumbs up without a lot of context. So, can pull back the curtain on other things that people are curious about potentially.
I think ESPN reported that at one point in time, you guys were planning on paying $1.75 million to Jack for licorice. Vasilem finally choking up the 20 subs. Thank you, Vasilem.
Choking up.
A man of his word.
Yeah. By the way, if audio is an issue, please let me know, chat, because some people are saying it's a little quiet. But was that a thing at some point in time? I mean, maybe you can't talk to the number. I know people.
No, I think that's fine. I mean, I think we had worked with stakeholders above me in the GSW pipeline around what our offseason was going to look like and potential budget and direction and how we thought this was the opportunity we had kind of been building for 3 years now. And we entered into a bunch of negotiations with a fairly aggressive posture for two reasons. One, I had done a lot of calls just checking in with my counterparts and other things. And I think after our roster performed as well as it did relative to maybe some more expensive rosters last year, I had kind of gotten the sense that people maybe weren't going to be spending as much this offseason. And I thought we might be, in general, we try to kind of zig a little when people are zagging. And I thought we might be zigging a little with our spending when they were zagging and doing a little bit more what we did. Literally within 2 minutes of each other, we found out from Jack that we had won the licorice bidding. And I got the call from upstairs saying that all of the uncertainty in the NBA situation and other things, would kind of force a change of plans. And I called Danon, and I'm sure he thought I was calling to congratulate him and for us to celebrate. Yeah, our general manager, who had been working intensely on this for a couple years in one sense, but really for a couple weeks. I'm sure he thought I was calling to celebrate and congratulate, and instead I was calling to ruin his life and crush his dreams. And yeah, I think for Jack, I don't, he would have to comment on how much of a disruption, that was for his plans. But I think that's not what he was expecting either. And he was very gracious about the whole thing, which I appreciate for sure. And not where we wanted to be, but that was the beginning of a big sea change in our off season and our plans for kind of 2021 and beyond.
Wait, you were saying within 2 minutes of this?
Yeah, they literally came in at the same time. I think
so
Jack it would have been really great for one of them to come in like several hours before the other one.
Jack was like, you got licorice, it's gonna happen, and then GSW was like, psych.
Yeah. I mean, again, conversations happening in parallel, so it wasn't not really that, but that's kind of the whiplash. I think for all of us was pretty intense, and I just. Everybody reacts to uncertainty differently. I think that's one of the major lessons of this, just at an org level thing, that like that's true on the NBA side, just the way the different NBA teams approached the uncertainty in their season and revenue streams and what that meant for them. And then certainly, like, I think COVID and all of the uncertainty this year affected lots of different teams differently in the way their bottom lines played and other things. That uncertainty, I think, just was at a peak when these other conversations were reaching their conclusion, and the mismatch in timing could not have been more sort of extreme.
I know I have another. I have a caller that's gonna maybe have some more to ask about with the COVID situation, the NBA, and all that tying together. I don't know if there's any more meat on that bone, so to speak, on that topic.
I mean, he can, if you want someone to ask specifically, I don't know how much more I can say about that, to be honest. I think a fair amount of that is in the public domain and you can read about it. Most of it is probably not really within my like purview to speak about, other than, you know, as much as I've done there, that uncertainty affected us and we had to make different decisions than we expected as a result.
Okay, well then I'll ask the Stixay question then, since I haven't really seen it. I think there's two parts to it. Like one, when you're building a new, roster with a lot of younger, newer talent, you know, some people might say, why bring in a veteran? And I think that's one question that people would have. The other one, of course, would be then why specifically Stixay? Why the 80 carry position? Why some of those angles? Was it about balancing the existing talent pool versus Stixay, or was Stixay like the guy that you targeted, or how did all that process kind of happen?
Yeah, I think 80 carry might have been, it was one of the last positions to kind of shore up as we were, resetting in real time. And I think for people's perspective, and I'll get to 6A in just a second, you tend to have 50 conversations all at once, just in the offseason in general. Like you name a player, they were probably floating through our internal chat at some point, and potentially even Danon reached out to them and had a conversation, or their agent or the team owner who represents them. I mean, you're doing a lot of conversations in parallel. And you're kind of creating a tier list at each position and sort of checking down them as you go and crossing things off. And so, we probably considered, I think Nick put this, or Nero put this in a nice tweet, like if you were sort of curious about player X versus player Y, like we probably did look at that. And depending on the person, there might have been a lot of different reasons to come together. So in some ways, it's easier to talk about why one person as opposed to why not somebody else, unless people have a very specific challenge. So I think when putting together young players, it is one of the challenges that you need people who can model what professionalism looks like in a bunch of different ways. And in particular, because coaches are not around during the flow of the game, having somebody who has an experienced voice to help set the tone for the progression of a game and the direction and thinking through and other things, I think is incredibly important. And I don't think it's a coincidence that most even of the reset rosters, Immortals kind of heading in a youth direction, FlyQuest with, like a sort of a mix, like with Licorice as the veteran and maybe some younger players at other positions. Maybe Dig is heading that direction. I don't know. There's a lot of rumors about what they're going on. Most of them have at least one veteran on the roster to sort of be that kind of centralizing and calming force. And then you're making bets effectively on the other youth players. So why Stixay in particular? Our coaches, Nick in particular, general manager Danon, have always admired Stixay and wanted to work with him if it was possible. He's just been very reliably employed at CLG, and they weren't previous to now particularly interested in conversations about him one way or the other, which could make sense given a lot of the strength that he had even a full year ago when CLG was one of the better teams in summer and just barely missed out on Worlds. So I guess that's like a year and a half ago at this point. So we weren't sure that he was going to be available this offseason. He was on our list. And then we went into interviews as we were kind of resetting and looking around. And he really impressed in the interviews we had. I think getting a veteran who was going to be interested in buying into what this year was going to be for us, what their role on the roster was going to be, and what we'd be looking for them to bring. Not every veteran is going to be up for that. It is a very particular skill set, and you need the kind of emotional maturity, communication skills necessary that not everybody has for one reason or another. And so he was a great fit for kind of both parts of that mold. And our bottom lane is really going to have a lot of experience. Newbie, obviously playing at a professional level in a wildcard region and winning to the last two MVPs of that region. He's new to NA, but just like Closer and FBI, I think we're placing a bet that he can, translate that. And then Stixay, obviously, a lot of success, a lot of failure also. He had to get on the kind of redemption train and believe that was something that he was up for and interested in and would be good for him in a way that not every experienced 80 carry was going to want to do.
Mark, do you have any questions about that? Do you have any callers that want to talk about like sort of the veteran list? Because I would have one last question for Hunter before we get into calls.
Not right now. I have three other questions. Okay. Four further questions? Right
okay,
now.
So I won't ask you about each of these, Hunter, but I think generally speaking, a lot of people are like, okay, Golden Guardians had the implication that you've implied, or even in some ways is kind of overtly said, is that your budget is not really big this year, and so you are looking at newer faces, in part because newer faces tend to run a little cheaper. When I am looking at this list of Sneaky, Ruin, Hansert, Solo, Biofrost, Deathly, Wiggly, Golden Glue, Cody-san, Ryoma, Fake God, Zazel, Meteos, Contracts, Apollo, Xmithy, Hako, Frog, and Viper, Poom, and Doublelift. I mean, Doublelift, let's throw them out. But were these players too expensive? Like, I guess from my perspective, there's this giant list of veterans. You would think that if they're now at a point in time where they probably won't have a team to play on, you could probably get these players for pretty bargain bin prices. No disrespect to them. So was there a thought there at all? Like, did you already lock in these before you thought that these guys were going to become available? Are they not as expensive? You know, like, why?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it goes to probably at least 2 points about that. So I think I'd say one thing. I think, you know, kind of what we're doing this year is sacrificing what was the original plan for 2021 now for 2022 and 2023, and so we're looking for explicitly to make bets this year that it would be great, of course, if they all paid off instantly. But the more, you know, the higher likelihood is that they're going to pay off next year. Next year is in 2022. And so, you know, a veteran presence has to be one that you think can scale appropriately, I think, with the players that you've got, is going to be happy here for the year, given what it is, and then, you know, kind of buy in and continue on with it after. And not everybody's going to fit that. So I think that's one point. You know, we're explicitly looking for young talent because we have now a 2 and probably more likely a 3-year, you know, sort of time horizon on when we're next have the window that we had this offseason.
So just to be clear, it sounds like, because, like, for instance, one of these example rosters that people have made in this Reddit thread of potential options, Solo, Xmithy, Import Mid, Cody-san, Zazel, I guess you're saying, like, that roster looks like it could make playoffs and do quite well in 2021, but you guys are looking at, you know, will all those players still be peak at top of their game 2 to 3 years from now, or even playing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one. Also, I don't know if that roster will make. I don't know how good that roster is. And I think 3, which I would have said before, I think a lot of behavioral stuff. You know, I think this offseason is probably costing people more than it might have in years past, although a lot of the names on their list have lost, or sort of their opportunity, the quality of their opportunities has decreased over time as some of that stuff has caught up to them. You can see a lot of names on that list maybe having bounced down to academy or not even had a spot at the beginning of last year, or other things. I think things tend to catch up to you at some point. And a reset this big, and it's not just us. Again, Immortals, pretty big reset. Dig rumored a big reset. FlyQuest has announced like a pretty big reset in a lot of reasons. That's a lot of teams looking to shake things up. And there are a number of reasons why you might not fit post reset, but I think what I'd say is it's going to be one of those two things. Either the timeline that the team is working on isn't one that matches with you anymore, or there's some stuff about you as an individual or as a teammate that people aren't interested in, and the kind of environments that they're, you know, like, this team's going to struggle, right? They're going to have to learn. That's not for everybody. Not everybody wants to do that or excels in that kind of environment. And you know, I think if you are of the opinion that you should be on a top team pushing for Worlds, and we say, well, I've got 4 rookies you'd want to play with, that's not going to be a match for most veterans.
Okay. Well, let's maybe hop into calls then. Mark, you think we're ready?
Yeah, I got a couple people waiting to go and still grabbing some more. I'm going to probably try and actually only look for takes I think Hunter can comment on, and then I'll reload the waiting room whenever we're...
Well, and again, we only have Hunter for like another 35 minutes or so. So
yeah, I only got 4 right now, and I assume we should hopefully get through them quickly.
Shout out to Revan is Live, LOL Bulbasaur for 32 months, Pedro Polo, 20 pounds of hummus, Osteal Manly Puppet, Killing You Guy, Danny Grimm, Zugby, Horny Jail for Kaisa for 6 months in advance. Thank you. That's a very generous advance. John G365, BM Smolin, and Vasilim, who gifted the 20 subs. And then Boba Cola at 39 months. That's crazy. And I Love You Chat at 36. And Naked Homeless Man at 34. We've got some long time subscribers. I really appreciate that. TomShoe is here. TomShoe, noted Reddit mod, is here. I have to call you out for that. Where are you calling from?
I know it's sad, right? But yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm calling from Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C.
Oh, my hometown.
Yeah.
You have strong opinions. Just remember that you're speaking to another hometown, Washington, D.C.
Washingtonian. Yeah.
What do you?
Oh yeah. It's all right. I'll take it easy today. I'm tired anyhow.
What do you want to talk about on the show?
So now that we've actually gotten the full roster, I'm a little bit concerned about Niles and Iconic making the jump from collegiate to LCS. I do know that it is a very large leap going from these two different levels of competition. And I've been watching Niles and Iconic for a while when they've been, dominating the collegiate scene. But what tends to make me a little bit nervous is that Hunter, do you think that this is kind of, a lot to stomach, just jumping this far in one season? Because bear with me, like I've seen this like many times before, where you take a true rookie and then you put him on a situation that can be let's say less than ideal, and they go out there and then they struggle, and then the community turns on them, and they kind of go back to academy, never to be seen again. And what I really want to avoid is having that same thing happen for a lot of the rookies on this team. Because, there's a lot of people that we haven't seen before, and if their first impression is not necessarily the greatest, then the chances is that that might stick. And how do you feel like all the new players are going to handle, jumping right into this pot? You think they'll be okay?
I mean, I do, but I would say I think it's a fair concern. And a couple points I would say. One is I think the community is in a different place in regards to these roster resets than we probably have seen a year or 2 years ago. And Travis pointed that out, when we kind of announced our roster a year ago. But I just think in general, the amount of talent turnover this offseason, like kind of raw talent turnover this offseason, I think it's just going to set different expectations in the community for what the season looks like. I also think NA struggles, and there's like a cycle of NA suck that we get into where we're blaming a different part of the ecosystem at a different point. But we're in the part of the cycle now where it's like, where's the new talent? Where are the young players? We may get out of that cycle by the end of spring split where they're like, oh, those are the new players. Get me out. But I think for the moment, at least for the start, I think there's going to be a lot of interest in this. And I think at a time, if it is the case where Xerxe, it is the case that Xerxe has stepped down, that all of these names are turning over, that should force the whole scene to kind of tell different stories, look at different players, think about progression and development differently. The analyst desk can't be focused on just the biggest names, of the past. The broadcast pieces and packages and other things can't be focused on, Doublelift and Bjergsen and Jensen and these names. They're going to have to tell more stories. And some of those stories are going to be a different kind of story than we've seen in the past, which should, I think, help everybody accept that the teams like ours may take a little bit more time than people are used to for people to find their legs. I also think the rumors of a format change and what that could mean or other things, there's a lot of directions next year could go that could make it easier for that story to be told over time.
I was actually going to have a follow-up about exactly that, because my concern would maybe go the other direction where, if the reported by Travis changes in schedule happen, if I don't know how it'll go, and it's speculation, but it feels like it would be a little bit less opportunity to change between splits, given that they are technically one split, though it sounds like there's still that gap period. I don't know what trade rules were going to be, but
yeah.
Do you have any concerns about you're more locked into your decisions in spring than you might have been in a previous model, or do you think it's basically the same?
I think it's basically the same. I think it was kind of I'm not sure the community ever really appreciated that. If you got knocked out early in playoffs or didn't make playoffs in spring, you had at times 2 whole months. Often you had more time between end of spring and the start of summer than you had between free agency and the start of spring, right? So you actually have a lot of time with typically all the players in market and a lot of access to people to experiment with roster changes between splits. And that is definitely going to be the case this year as well, regardless of the potential format. And I think if the rumors that Travis had are correct, there are more games to be played in summer. So actually, you have a kind of a big experimental opportunity in spring, just like you had last year when spring didn't count. And then you have even more games in summer. and let's just say playoff format stays the same, where it's like top 8 and up in some degrees of weighting for those seedings. Those are playoff spots for the taking. I mean, there's a reason like playoffs came down to the wire for this last split for pretty much all 8 seeds, and I guess in a way all 10 seeds. And I expect the same will be the case. It's going to be far more about who ends the year on the hottest note, ready to go, than who starts the year on the hottest note. So that kind of C9 or the reverse C9 journey that TSM went on over the year, or TL went on over the year. I think that there should still be plenty of room for that in the rumored, unconfirmed, not announced potential format changes that I heard about on TGI, the TGI YouTube.
Right. To follow up a little bit on the the rookies and trying to develop while also going to the LCS. Do you think having this number of rookies might be too much? Because when you look at the current amount of free agents on who are still without teams, like you still have Hanzo, you still have Xmithy, you still have Cody's son. Putting so many young players on one team, do you think that might stunt growth a little bit now that you have Xerxe being the only veteran on this squad? And
yeah, I mean,
do you think that's something where? I'm sorry, go ahead. Do you think that's something that the academy team can play a role in?
Yeah, I mean, I think my short answer is, well, I forget how you phrase it, but whatever it is, no, yes. I don't think it's going to be a problem. I think we constructed the team with a lot of thought and around who these people are individually, but also the composition of them as a group. And it is something that we think can develop quickly. Communication skills, drive, appetite, maturity, that kind of stuff really goes a long way. And I actually put a ton of faith in our coaching system and the coaches themselves to get the most out of this squad and help them get through their challenges, whatever they may be, to do that. So I think the short answer is no. We're not worried about that. I mean, we're worried about that, but I'm not overly worried about that.
I was about to say you're putting a lot of faith in Anero.
Okay?
Yeah, but he's justifies that faith every day.
What is the sort of thought on, you guys are sending these rookies in, and in some sense it's a great year to send rookies in because you're going to have all these other rookie rosters, and in another sense they're going to have to play against Perkz or Alfari in certain situations. So in another sense it's a scary year to send them in because they're going to get I don't want to say dumped on, but it's going to be tough.
It is.
So, I think a couple points I would say to that. So I think FBI was really intimidated by Doublelift when he first came over, and I think it took that Keith hook and the double kill in that lane in the first game against Team Liquid in spring to break that in a way. And if you don't, and that I think that was just a turning point in a lot of ways for the mentality. You have to take those kinds of players head on and have those moments where you rise above to feel like, okay, I deserve to be here. And you're not going to get that until you get that. So, are they going to get dumpstered? Sure, some. Are they going to dumpster some other people? Probably. And those moments when they do, those are the transformational moments. And I think, I guess I'd be putting words in his mouth. So, maybe he wouldn't say this, but I think that bot lane play set the stage in a lot of ways for what we saw at the end of the year, because we knew that our bottom lane, and FBI in particular, could handle Doublelift, and he did.
Yeah.
What's that quote? Something stood on the shoulders of giants. What is the God? There's a quote about how did we do this by standing on the shoulders of people who came before. The only reason FBI ever turned out to be good was because Keith set him up for it.
That's right.
Yeah,
a true support.
Tom, unlocking people's potential one player at a time.
Tom, is there any shout outs or anything you want to say before we move on to the next caller?
Yeah, sure. I just wanted to recall back to, I think it was a 30 or some episodes ago when I think I was on the show with Anero, and I think this was when CLG was kind of at a bottom point, and then I remember having a take that was dumping on Xerxe, and then Anero straight up asked me, he's like, hey, do you think Xerxe and Smoothie are the worst bot lane in the league? And I said yes. And then he immediately jumped to Xerxe's defense. So maybe it's fate, maybe not, that Xerxe is now on his team.
Yeah.
And also, can you please consider Yusui for your academy team? Oh my God, I will I will make it
TomShoe is a
worth
big
your while.
Yasui
You
simp,
should-
so
you
he
should
would
really
appreciate Yasui
consider
getting
it. It's very
consideration.
important. Like, help a brother out, please.
Have a good one, Tom.
Take it easy.
I'm sad that no one corrected my quote in Twitch chat. It's from Isaac Newton. If I have seen further, it is because I've done so by standing on the shoulder of giants.
There's a great quote about that in Social Network as well. Anyway, you want to go grab the next caller?
I guess.
Thank
You
you.
just keep talking about quotes.
Thank you, Sinilok, for the 5 months. Max Drixton, who said, I shouldn't try to aim for 2,000 subs because it's unsustainable, and I put a sad face. And then Max gifted 5 subs. So thank you. Fish Emolson, thank you for the gifted sub. And Chris Mogagaku. How well is your World of Warcraft team going to do this year, Hunter? Is it a team? What do
Which
you call
one?
it? Oh, you have, because
The
you have
guild?
arenas and a guild. You have an arena team and a guild team, right?
And an MDI team, yeah, like 5-man PvE team. But I think they're all going to do great.
Okay, very good. Which one will do better, your World of Warcraft teams or your League of Legends team?
I don't know. The scenes are very different, but they'll all be top 10. I know that.
Okay, good, good to hear. TKL, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Baton Rouge, Louisiana. What do you want to talk about on the show? TKL, my friend. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Just call me
no.
Khaled, for the record. It's cool.
Okay.
Sorry. I alt-tabbed for a second. I'm playing TFT. Oh, anyway. So I think GGS and FlyQuest are great examples for what teams should be doing to improve the league by picking up, I don't want to say no-name players, but I guess younger players and I guess rookie players. Because it's something I think the league has desperately needed for years, instead of recycling a lot of the names we know, like the 15 that we've been talking, or y'all have been talking about all day. I think it's just a great direction to take the league. I think it can eventually get us to the point where we'll have, like, hopefully an all-rookie team like you'll see in LCK, LCL, or the EU.
Do you? How recently have you changed the battery on your fire alarm?
Okay, we're not talking about my fire alarm. We're talking about my take.
Okay. Just worried about you. It's important to have that.
Make sure you get carbon monoxide. That's the real scary one for me.
Yeah. Both of those. I mean, we're in California, so maybe I don't know what it's like in Louisiana. But so your just take is like Hunter's a genius. Everything's great. Golden Guardians is going to do it all.
Well,
Yes, exactly.
I mean, to his point as well about, he feels like teams should have been doing what kind of FlyQuest and Golden Guardians been doing for a long time. I guess I would ask Hunter, do you think teams should have been doing this, back years before? And by doing this, I mean, like giving more talent a shot, or do you think something has changed in the ecosystem? Like, had the scene been too stagnant before in your eyes?
I guess what I'll say is I think in traditional sports this is pretty well understood at this point, but I think it took a little maybe it's taken a little while longer. That I think the worst thing you can do in traditional sports typically is be expensive and mediocre, and you should either be really expensive and good, like Team Liquid, and may C9 this year potentially, or you should be placing more bigger bets and resetting harder. And that I think being stuck in the middle is possibly just not typically where you want to be if your goal is I plan on winning a championship. Now traditional sports have a lot of structure in place that kind of limits the movement of talent and a bunch of other things, but nonetheless, like I think basketball, you see this even more, but it's true in most traditional sports that people tend to choose one or the other. If you're going to spend a lot of money, you want to be getting a lot for that. And if you can't get a lot, or that money's not going to go as far as you want, you shouldn't spend it and you should reset instead. I think that's basically what we showed last year. And I don't think it's a coincidence that other teams are sort of following our lead a little bit this year when it seemed like those were their options. I think that outlier potentially in the middle, I guess maybe there are rumors anymore, like potentially the EG and CLG rosters, those are the ones where you'd be nervous if in a world where they came up 5th or 6th or 7th again on that kind of return on investment, and whether that was worth it for them. I'm not in their boardroom. I'm not making those decisions, so I'm not saying that they're making the wrong decision. But I do think that that's a lesson that I think it has taken a little while for the league to catch hold of, but I think is there now. That if you're going to spend a lot of money, you should be getting a lot of results for it. And if you're not going to get those results, you should find a different strategy.
And I think, the point about oh my God, relegations, that's the word. Before, I think you could even justify some of that, like expensive but not quite getting results, but hey, we're protecting our spot in the league. But ever since relegations has gone away, I think, you're dead on about that.
Yeah. And, again, every franchise is going to feel the weight of a playoff berth differently. It meant a lot to us last year to get that 6th spot in spring, and we shoved it down Mark's throat in particular. But that was somewhat, based on predictions, but also our franchise being relatively new, those really mattered. I think it'll feel good again this year with this roster in a way that it might not have. Simply making playoffs would not have felt that way if we had run back where we ended on 2020 into 2021. We would have had, bigger ambitions. And so, for franchises that have been struggling the way we were, maybe it's worth it to spend a little bit more to get that playoff spot, to get some momentum for what you got going on. Everybody has to make their own decisions, but I do think we're going to see the kind of bifurcation or stratification of the league kind of increase between the spenders and the maybe not spenders each year, even if people are moving between those categories year over year.
It does seem like there's a race to the top and a race to the bottom between all the teams in a way that there hasn't really been.
Yeah, I mean, the gap, I really do think these kind of $4 to $5 million rosters, that is a lot more than we've seen even a year ago. And the difference between that and I think now several teams that might be below $1 million or thereabouts, plus minus, that is a 4 to 5x spending difference between the top 3 and the bottom 3 potentially. That is really new. That kind of difference is really, really new. And I don't think it's a race to the bottom in the sense that people are intentionally tanking for the first pick next year's scouting ground.
I meant
the way you said that.
Yeah, but from a spending standpoint or from a kind of sort of calibration of investment, it's definitely that.
I think previously TSM has claimed that they are the only profitable team. I think C9 might have tried to claim it as well. I've heard the secondhand, but that C9 had said publicly somewhere about trying profitable baby based off of some sales that they were able to do previously. Is there a world where Golden Guardians enters profitable this year based off of the fact that perhaps you guys, league revenues increase and your costs go down, you make some money on the trade to 100T?
Yeah. I think some of it, there's, sort of budgeting shenanigans depending on how you count all that. I think the short answer is maybe. A lot of it is, kind of where you allocate the revenue, where are other costs, how you allocate those against the other games that we're in, in the facility and office space and those kinds of things. We made some money selling our players. That's nice, I suppose. It was useful, I guess, if we're going this direction, but not the goal and not really the focus of the off season in particular. Just a byproduct of the larger forces that kind of were at play.
Is Inero's salary just a huge weight on the around the neck of Golden Guardians? It's how do you overcome
it wasn't
this?
Last year, but if you guys keep hyping him up on Reddit and Twitter, he just sends me that time with dollar signs after it. And
you guys made the mistake of putting them in your content, with the cutout coaches' thoughts. It became a meme.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Honestly, Zenny's getting a lot of play for that every time, except when Riot cuts them out with the broadcast. Aside from that, I think that meme is more than paid for itself.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I know you told me to call you something. I forget.
Just call me Khaled. You can just say Khaled. Khaled is fine.
Khaled. Okay, sorry. Your audio is not fantastic. I don't mean that offensive, just as an explanation. What is there? Is there anything you want to shout out before we move on to our next caller?
Yeah, I kind of want to shout out Crowan and Bupasaurus. They've been doing a lot of the TFT tournament casting. They're great. If anyone likes TFT, I highly suggest you go watch them. It's really fun. and I guess Alienware too. I hope I get a new computer for Black Friday. But that's it. Thank you for answering my question. I appreciate it.
And by the way, if you need to figure out how to change that battery on the fire detector or fire alarm, Mark has a great quote about standing on somebody else's shoulders so that you can reach up and change the battery. So feel free to ask him up for that.
Just invent calculus, and someone will help you change that.
Thank you so much, Khaled. Have a good one.
Yeah, no problem.
All
I
right.
don't think he appreciated that.
No, I don't think he did that.
Very salty advice denial.
Rico Suave, thank you for the 30 months. ES said, Josh, thank you for the 28 months. Kyle gifted 3 subs to bring his total gifted lifetime subs to 840 on the channel. Segi H, thank you for the 2 months. Really appreciate it. And we're moving on. Segi asked a question. Normally we don't take these 5 subs, but how do you think this compares to the salary cap the LPL is going to implement? I don't know what that means, but what do you think of that, Hunter?
Well, I'll just take that in a totally different direction. I think salary caps require in this country, legal hurdles that we're nowhere near being able to clear. So, I think if owners are concerned about their spending, to be honest, they mostly only have themselves to blame. The financial discipline or structural discipline, every team has to make their own budgets and decide how much they're willing to spend, and then either do or do not do on that front. All of that stuff is put into place to help owners, kind of protect them from themselves. And we don't have any of those mechanisms, mostly, I would guess, for legal reasons. I don't see any of that coming here anytime soon.
Shammy is here. Shammy, you've been on the show before, right?
Yeah.
Where you want to remind me where you're calling from?
Yeah, I'm calling from Providence, Rhode Island. It's a state.
Providence is a city.
Providence, not a state.
It may as well be. There's not much else in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Essentially, yeah.
My first esports event that I ever worked at was in Providence, Rhode Island. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So I wanted to talk about how, given the spend on Perkz by C9, that if they don't make it out of groups, which is already a pretty high bar given the past 2 years of NA performance, that this roster should be considered a failure and a bad investment for the team.
This is less of a Hunter take and more of just a general take, yeah?
Well, I was going to put a little Hunter spin on it and say, like, let's say that happened. If you were in C9 shoes and that happened, is there a world where you would feel bad about ever getting Perkz? Or, is there a number value where you're like, I regret pulling this trigger, 2 or 3 years down the line or something?
Yeah. So I don't know the details of his contract, so it's hard to know what kind of flexibility Jack has in let's just say disaster scenarios where 2 or 3 years from now, he's kind of sweating under the weight of the contract, let's just say. But presuming that doesn't happen, I think the short answer is no. Look, like, Perkz is going to be the biggest star in the league on most well, depending on whether Peter comes back or not, the biggest star in the league by lots of objective measures. The biggest, one of the biggest and most important ones being that Perkz does a lot of the stuff that most LCS players don't do anymore. He streams, he engages with fans, he does interviews with people like Travis and other people. He is willing to say stuff and be engaging and be a personality and all the stuff. And Travis put out that video where Perkz, said he would never come to NA, or that's a bad paraphrase of that, but he certainly wouldn't go there right now and other things. He's probably going to own that in some funny way that will be useful. And for C9, that really has this kind of meme content machine well oiled at this point, they're going to be able to do a lot with that, regardless of, I think, whether they make it out of groups or not. So I think when you say bad investment, I think probably from a dollar standpoint, it's not a bad investment. In my opinion, the difference, from a dollar standpoint between Jensen and Perkz should be really significant. Jensen doesn't do a lot of those other things that drive a lot of value to the organization. So let's just say you're winning the same amount with each of those mid laners. The one who is actually doing all that other stuff, driving people to content, streaming all those other things, it's a much better investment. And, I would hope that the dollar amounts that they are commanding on the market would reflect that. I don't know if that's the case. But
do you mind if I ask you a quick question right there on
Sure.
that? Because if you're talking about, I think the value amount for Jensen was around 1.3 million was the figure discussed. And then you're talking about around approximately double that for Perkz. Do you think that Perkz is bringing an extra $1 million of value to C9 just by streaming extra and all these things if they're not actually performing better and therefore, able to monetize on that through selling merch or whatever?
Yeah, maybe. Here's what I would say. I don't think there's any owner in the league that knows their finances and the cost benefit, kind of ratio and analysis for their stuff than Jack. I think that's why he loves this lost the offseason, sort of meme so much. I think that probably on some level, this is his favorite time of year. And it's because I think he has just this like really honed in sense of where the value is for him and his organization in the players he's got and also the players he doesn't have. And so my guess is he's done the math and has a sense. Now, that being said, competitively and from a broader brand standpoint and kind of fan expectations and other things, it's definitely not going to feel good if they don't make it out of groups, I would guess. And not certainly in a world where they like bottom out and don't make worlds at all. Like, I think that's going to feel really bad. But, you have to kind of calculate your upside just as much as your downside risk and make sure that that's reflected in, the structure of all of your deals.
Not to mention, I think if I am Jack, I have spent the past, 7 years or whatever, looking at TSM with Bjergsen as their like star player and the fact that they were able to leverage that to recruit new talent to play with the team, sometimes at lower costs, and to build out a brand and command the audience. And just, I think, if I'm Jack, I'm like, damn, the Bjergsen is what puts TSM ahead of me. So in a world where where Bjergsen is no longer playing, securing another really popular European mid laner who has a ton of fans and notoriety and can probably take, maybe he makes the calculation of I can take the throne from TSM this year if I just pay this extra money for Perkz. So I think that's kind of interesting for sure. Shammy, any final thoughts before we move on to the next caller?
Not particularly. I'm glad to hear that assessment of the financials on it from the back end about Perkz. I guess a couple shout outs on the way out. Shout out to Mark, who told me my girlfriend did not have as many teraflops as an Alienware PC last time. And shout out to Alienware on that note. You should go to alienware.com/Travis and use code TravisNoff Q4 now. Not Q3 anymore, Q4.
Have a good
nice night, everyone.
Have a good one. See ya. Somebody messaged me and said that the new meta for LCS owners it's the LCS whales versus free to play, and that's what you're seeing is how they're gonna match up this coming year. Mark, you're muted.
God damn it! Was I muted the whole time when I laughed about what he said about? Oh,
yeah.
Well, we'll move on.
Do we have time, Hunter? I know you have to leave soon. Mark, what do we have? Do we have another Hunter call, or are they just all?
I think he left, right?
Well, we're gonna have to get through this one pretty quick. I know.
Yeah, well, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, no.
Does Travis pay people? Says Bearman499. I pay Mark. I don't pay Hunter.
It's true.
And Mark takes forever to send me invoices, so that's a huge problem. Man, I'm badass. Thank you for the sub. Really appreciate it. Thank you everyone for subbing. We are 5 subs away from hitting 2,000 again, and I think we might be bleeding some subs tonight. So I don't know. We'll see if it goes up and down.
Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, it happens. Well, it's really depressing because sometimes we will stream at the same time in which I did another stream, and all those subs from 30 days ago will start to expire. So I just see them going away, and it just makes me feel terrible. Mark is giving a lecture in the other call. I don't know why he's taking so long, but I don't know. I'm eager. Oh, Bluejay is here. Bluejay.
Oh.
That my thoughts exactly, Hunter. Bluejay, where are you calling from?
That Bluejay is known by an LCS GM or owner, whatever.
I'm a frequent. I'm a friend of the pod. I listen to the podcast every week.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Some random guy.
Yeah, Hunter has limited time. He has to leave soon. But Bluejay, you're calling from Canada. What do you want to talk about?
Yeah, so my take is that Doublelift should have every right to want to take a break or retire if TSM can't find a decent support.
Very good.
I don't know who would be arguing that he doesn't have the right to do that. I'm pretty sure he's
a lot more people than you would expect, honestly. Let's just say that.
A less legal definition of like constitutional right to do that and more of like a public perception of right.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
wrong.
So here's what I'll say, because I think it touches on our offseason story as well, which is that managing the expectations of your players as you're entering the offseason is a really delicate process. And one of the challenges that we ran into as our offseason progressed is that we had told our guys we were, chasing a championship next year, and we're going to be, supplementing some of them with the necessary talent to go do that. Since they had kind of made that clear in, as they reflected on the season over time, that they, expected some changes and wanted us to go do that. And, players like Licorice were what they expected, and we agreed. And so if I'm Doublelift, I have no idea what I was told when the offseason started around who I should be expecting to play with next year. I would guess when he was traded to TSM at the beginning of summer, and then signed that 1-year extension, I think, to run through next year, that he was not expecting that he was not expecting to be the Stixay amongst the reset TSM.
Xerxe would retire and all this stuff.
Yeah. And so, maybe, I don't know when they started talking to him about, the different reality that they would be running into and trying to manage his expectations. So I think the short of it is, I agree. I think, you hope that there's trust and transparency and communication and whatever, and that, you're going to get continued buy-in from the players that you're keeping, regardless of the direction the offseason goes, because they understand the sort of vicissitudes and changes as they go on. And, that we're all on this roller coaster where things change. But I think any player who expects every year that not only are we, going to be chasing a regional title, but pushing to worlds and out of groups and beyond, I think Doublelift expects that every year, and he should. And if he looks at his roster and he doesn't think it's going to do that, I wouldn't blame him. I guess am I going to get in trouble for this? I wouldn't blame him for, I might get in trouble for this. Sorry, Chris Greeley in advance. But I think a player in his position, if he felt like his expectations weren't being met, especially if they were communicated and kind of mutually agreed upon between him and his management, I think could justifiably feel like that was not what he signed up for.
Okay, Reggie leaked Power Viva last week, so we're...
Path of Exile fan. Big Path of Exile fan.
Yeah,
our objective on this show is to just get people fined.
The more
people get fined, the better.
We were the only team to not get fined at all in 2020. All other 9 teams got fined at some point or something. We were the only one who didn't get fined. If I have broken that here at the end of the year.
This goes on your 2021 bill, right?
Yeah, no, probably not. Oh boy. Sorry.
But
I think that should be fine. I don't think that's a problem. But yeah, we were the only team that didn't get fined. So hopefully I've kept our slate clean.
Is that public? Like what everyone gets fined
for? They used to have the fine tracker.
Yes, I think some of it is.
They quietly removed the fine tracker, and I have asked them to, and they're like, we're coming up with a new system. And then they never come up with a new system, and they don't tell me what the fines are, and it drives me crazy.
Yeah. So I know that we can request to see the secret log of fines, but we have to request it. It's not like something the teams can access.
It'd be really funny if somehow that secret log ended up in Travis's hand, so he could do a wall of shame video about
any number of different
leaking all the fines.
If you're out there, people who leak to Travis and who also have access to that.
It'd be a great video. I'd love to watch it.
It would show that we're the only team not listed there, I think.
Hook it up.
Get on it, Danon.
Supposedly. Allegedly.
Bluejay, I know we've gone off topic, but I mean, it sounds like Hunter agrees with you. I mean, Mark, I assume you're going to agree as well, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always kind of in like the, they hold the contract kind of thing, but I think Doublelift is probably a little bit more in a unique position than like, I don't know, random other average level 80 carry, so I agree.
I could probably expand on it a little bit more. I don't want to step on the toes of someone else with another topic, but I can expand on that a little bit more because for me personally, my original thought when I heard that was kind of like, man, like you should be like happy to play on any LCS team. It's a privilege and so on and so forth. But as I thought about it more, it kind of I started thinking about like Doublelift's legacy, honestly. And like even just this year, I would say I already put a significant dent in Doublelift's legacy. I think before this year, Doublelift was talked about on the same level as Xerxe as being like the best LCS player of all time. And then he kind of had like a weak season, and then it was for sure like it's obviously Xerxe. And I think that if you have a lackluster support and you have a really bad season, I think that that kind of hurts your legacy. And I also think that someone who dealt with motivation issues last year, it's really bad to bring in a support that is not a high tier support as well.
Yeah. I mean, I can't disagree with literally anything you just said. It's all true. So
That's the problem with Bluejay's takes are too good.
Bluejay, anything you want to shout out before we say goodbye to you and also to Hunter?
Just a couple of quick things. Hunter, I did watch that video of you last week, and I've seen a lot of like execs come out and do like speeches and stuff like that and videos, and I actually thought that yours was really authentic, and I think that it portrayed that you know exactly how the fans of Golden Guardians feel. So I just wanted to give you props for that. And then I also wanted to shout out Draft Buff, because I didn't give them a proper shout out last time. They actually gave me a freaking jersey. I won like a jersey, and I had no idea. So they're giving me a free jersey. So huge shout out to Draft Buff, and that's it.
Yeah. Congrats on your win. Thanks, Bluejay, for the call, and we'll catch you next
All right,
time.
see you guys. Thank you.
See ya.
All right, Hunter, I know you have to go. I do have one question for you. We both know Sherman, who I think is in the Twitch chat. I don't know if he's paying attention.
Oh, really?
But he works over at Riot. And I was just curious, do you blame him for the lack of salary caps in the LCS?
No. Like I said, the legal hurdles to get over that are...
Yeah, but the legal hurdle is the Sherman Antitrust Act.
Too clever.
Anyway,
that's how you want to end this? My God.
on a bad pun.
My God.
Hunter, anything you want to say to the fans out there or anything like that, but as we transition over the second half of the show?
No. I think it really 2020 was a great year for the organization, and this offseason was really unusual or unexpected. Not the direction we went. I'm just going to echo what I said, but I think I really, I am optimistic, and I think fans of what we did in the last year, I hope, will stay with us and be fans of what we're going to do the next year. I think we're going to go on a very similar journey with some different faces on it, and if that journey was one you enjoyed in 2020, come on back. We're gonna run it back in a different way than we expected. So. Very
good. Well, thank you so much, Hunter, for the call. You can go ahead and I guess drop from Skype and the
awesome.
The show.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate the time. It was a blast.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
See ya. Okay, let me figure out how to change this, and we'll also take this moment to take a quick break while I'm doing
Hunter.
Yeah, boo me.
I mean, he could just hang up.
Well, because he turned his Skype off first. Usually people drop Discord, so
I know. It's just funny.
I was going to boot him because I thought he might have forgotten Discord.
Yeah. We're going to take a quick break right now to talk about Alienware. All right, I've been teasing this for a while, but officially, the Alienware Black Friday deals, Cyber Monday stuff is active. I can't speak for stuff outside of the U.S., though. I think at least Canada probably has some pretty good deals. But go to alienware.com/Travis. That's right. I don't. In the past, maybe you haven't gone to this page. Maybe you already have. I don't care if you're watching live, if you're listening to the podcast. If you are driving, pull over the side of the road and safely pull out your phone so that you can go to alienware.com/Travis. The link at the top says great deals during Black Friday and Cyber Monday. Click that and go look at these things because they are pretty big. And I'm going to be honest, my code Travis10OFF-Q4 does not work with all of them. I think in part because some of these are such crazy good deals that they can't, I don't want to speak on them. I would speculate personally that they can't afford to add another 10% off because they're just so crazy. And you'll see, by the way, that some of them are already getting claimed. For instance, the Area 51M R2, that deal is like fully claimed right now as we're doing the show. They've got doorbusters, limited quantities. Go check it out. And be sure to do so through alienware.com/Travis. Click that banner at the top so that they know that you're coming through to me. But there's already been a ton of people that have been messaging me, so I know other people are grabbing some of these deals. And I'm guessing that they will be refreshing some of them. Doorbusters launch every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern is what I'm seeing on this page. So go be sure to check that out. It's a big help to me, and like this is honestly some of the best time of the year to go pick up stuff like this. So go do that. Go ahead. What, Mark?
I was going to try something. I don't know if this will work. Siri, order me an Alienware laptop.
Your microphone is not. It's not picking it up. I don't know. We didn't plan this bit beforehand, Mark.
I didn't know you had one, actually. This was for everyone listening. I didn't know if I could get anyone.
Oh, you wanted them. Oh, you're trying to get them.
I was trying to get all the listeners. If someone's listening to some
But you
podcast
said Siri,
later,
and it's actually the Amazon one, which you shouldn't say. Siri is not the Amazon one.
right? I did that on purpose.
Okay, great. You've ruined. Anyway, sorry. So let's just ignore everything that just happened. So there's some great stuff over there. I think when you land on that page, you're going to see a bunch of PCs and stuff, but they've got monitor deals. They've got all sorts of stuff. You can click over at the top, and you'll see, for instance, right now, the 34-inch gaming monitor, the curved ultrawide that I use, normally $1,500 on the Alienware website. Right now, $829. So again, these are great deals. If you've complained in the past to me about a price, I don't want to hear it because you can go see it right now. These things are great. Anyway, thank you so much to Alienware for their support of the show. Really appreciate it. And yeah, pretty slick. Mark, you want to go grab our next caller?
Yeah, give me a second.
Okay. Gulbo, thank you for the Prime. And Stobbles, thank you for the Prime. We are, I think, still 3 subs away because we're losing subs as we're gaining them. But we're at 1,997 subs. So thank you to everybody who's hooking it up. Steffion, thank you for the Prime. I appreciate it. It's very nice. Well, now I don't have Hunter here, and I don't have things to read out. Tell us about Twitch Prime. Just sent a Prime. Wow, I have never had you sub before, but I appreciate it. That's awesome. Great name. Renegade 1478. Thank you for the Prime. And then Rackaway just gifted 5 subs in the channel for the first time, and Bearman gifted 1 to 504 Caesar. Thank you to both of you. Thank you to everybody. Oh, and we started the scam train just in time for the Real Biggie Cheese to be here. Cheese, where are you calling from?
Howdy, I'm calling from Frankfort, Connecticut.
Frankfort, Connecticut. Never been there myself. Heard good things. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I want to talk about why Rekkles going to G2 is not a good decision for both G2 and Rekkles himself.
Okay, we have an LEC call. I really appreciate, and I mean this complimentary. You have a great accent, and I appreciate that you're talking about European players while using your accent. Do you want to?
I was going to throw in also, this one collected a couple poop emojis, which is why I actually picked it up, is because a lot of people were interacting with it.
The people like disagreeing with it, and
in Discord, it was a hot take, so I liked it.
Okay. So you think Rekkles going to G2 is a bad thing?
Yes, sir. I'm thinking one of the main issues is that Rekkles, compared to Perkz was really good shot call. That's like my primary reason, is that he brought a lot of the reason why G2 was successful was in part by Perkz with his voice and things like that. I think that Rekkles can't really replicate the same level of shot calling. And I'm also thinking that he's having trouble with, like, I don't know how to say this. Rekkles is kind of like, he can really function really well in a meta kind of focus on ADCs. But right now, I don't know if y'all been playing League recently. I've been seeing the Sunfire Aegis.
Yeah.
Sunfire Aegis, Malphite, Microwave, and the Baron, which ain't, I'll leave that to Riot to balance. But for now, like, I don't think a solo carry quiet ADC is going to be more valuable than Perkz. And arguably, Perkz was better than him anyhow. Another reason why I thought that wouldn't fit so well is that Rekkles himself, for his legacy, he wants to win. And joining a team that, like, has been kind of clapping him for the past few years on Fnatic, it's not the greatest move for him. First of all, like, one trend I noticed when players move to rival teams, they don't perform so well in the beginning. There's a lot of LEC players are also humans. Like, they aren't immune from drama and things like that. And also things like why, like, Rekkles, a lot of his things are like about why he would consider, like, I don't know where I'm going with
Yeah, I don't know where you're going with it either, but let's cut in on some of the stuff.
I'm trying to think about the words here.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
Rekkles ain't a highfalutin. That makes sense. Y'all know what that means?
Wait, is that what?
A highfalutin.
Yeah, highfalutin.
So Rekkles don't really have a big ego, but I think a lot about what pro players would want, and a lot of it comes down to like legacy. And him going on like G2 and winning isn't like he would be discredited from his Worlds win if he won with G2. A lot of people don't remember like Piglet was part of the roster when SKT won Worlds. But although he was quite the talented player back then, he still was kind of separated from his achievement. I think he'll be like Kevin Durant, where he's still one of the greatest, like a really good player, but he won't be considered the best. And often the team he's on will kind of alienate him from his achievements.
All right.
Okay, so a
I
couple
gotta
things
say,
to
I had to
here.
Google highfalutin to know what the hell that was.
Oh, you didn't? You've never heard highfalutin?
I've never heard that, so I learned something from this
Southern
call.
California maybe picks up some of the southern phrases. So not to be clear, it's not a Southern California phrase. I think Caps did pretty well after switching teams. Cheese. Right? So I'm a little less concerned about players joining rival teams and then looking weaker once they get there.
I think also.
I mean,
all right, go ahead.
I mean that's on a player basis. I guess it's kind of foolish of me to try and like guess what happened, but I'm just thinking that's like could be one issue with him moving.
Yeah,
because it is a player thing, not just like it's a guaranteed fact. If you move to a rival team, you're going to perform worse. But that's just one thing that could happen.
Yeah, I mean,
my apologies.
No,
I think I'm going to ultimately disagree with the take that. I think some of the points you make are ones that a lot of people might be feeling. And like the whole Kevin Durant thing, I understand the angle about like, if you can't beat them, join them kind of thing. And then it feels like worse of achievement than overcoming your foes. But even worse than joining the team and then winning would be never winning. Like, I think most of those people who do make that decision after they've been struggling, like Fnatic hasn't beaten G2 in years when it mattered. And it didn't look like Fnatic was reloading that well. It didn't seem like it, at least. They were not trending up, I guess you would say. It didn't seem like it. So I can see a world where he's like, I'll just go to the better team and win and dominate Europe and try and actually get further in Worlds. And if he wins Worlds on G2, yes, you're right. Some haters will be like, he couldn't do it on his own. He had to join, his rivals to do it. But I guarantee you, he'll feel better about the fact that he has a world championship than he does. Because it's not like just black or white, like win with G2 or win with Fnatic. It's like win with G2 or maybe get stuck in quarterfinals until he retires, because who knows, right?
Yeah,
like
and
you don't
keep getting second place to G2.
Right. Like you don't know what the options actually would be in the future. And so he's taking his best path forward for career success. And I think I won't really fault people. I agree with you. It's narratively cooler. And like, I respected the people who tough it out and whatnot, but I'm not going to judge the guy necessarily who goes over to the dark side and then crushes it.
Yeah. Not to mention, I guess it's hard to make this assessment, but I would imagine with the money they got from Cloud9, G2 was probably able to make a pretty considerable offer to Rekkles. That it's like at a certain point in time, it becomes hard for me to imagine why Rekkles would turn that down. It's like, okay, if you go to G2, Fnatic gets weaker, G2 looks way stronger. I mean, you consolidate the strength in the region. It's your best chance. You'll probably start winning spring and summers again like you used to. You have a pretty good chance of getting to finals again or maybe winning. I mean, it's hard to say already, right? But like, this is a pretty proven team. You're going to make better money than you would probably joining any of these other LEC teams. My guess would be like, it's difficult for me to think that Rekkles with all this in front of him should say, nah, I'm good.
Yeah. I think the other thing too is like the Piglet point. Like, I think now after he's retired and Ben had some bad years in NA, you might compare him to Faker now and be like, yeah, it's not even close. But when Piglet came over initially, I mean, it was a huge deal. He was getting 20, 30K viewers consistently on Twitch because having a world championship in your belt gets you a lot of respect. Same with Impact. Same with like a lot of those guys who have won a world championship.
Same with Crown.
Gone else. Yeah, I mean, like everyone who wins a world championship, you have this extra glow about you, and yeah, maybe that glow will fade eventually if you don't continue performing. But I don't think anyone's upset about it.
Yeah, Haru is available to academy teams, as Papa Smithy and J have pointed out. Yeah, I don't know.
What's funny is I thought of who he's dog first.
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just wondering, like, so y'all thought even like you don't think that Perkz leaving G2 would put even like a damp in their chances of winning, or just like being a strong team? Like, I feel like the removal, like his departure, is a significant reason why like G2 might not be the move.
But I actually, Mark, because sorry, Cheese, it's true. We didn't remember your take about the shot calling thing and the leadership of Perkz. Was that maybe I'm an idiot, and very likely. But
yeah.
Was there ever a big conversation around Perkz being shot caller, leader, captain of G2?
Yes and no. It wasn't like shot caller. Like that term is generally not really thrown. People might say you do shot calling.
Yeah,
but
shot caller is kind of not a thing anymore, I feel like.
Right. Like you might say, oh, that player is really vocal. He does a lot of shot calling, but no one really approaches the game anymore like this guy's going to make all our late game decisions. He's a leader for the team. He's obviously very smart, very versatile in his skill set. You can't say enough about his intangibles, but I don't think Wonder and Caps and Yankos and Mickey are all going to lose their minds now that Perkz isn't there 1v9 controlling them like supposedly High was doing back in the day or something like that, right? Like I don't think there was ever that level of mystique around Perkz's shot calling. But that said, to the caller's point about will G2 be stronger next year, I do think that is still up in the air. I think there is a world where, despite Rekkles being a more seasoned AD carry with a better history and whatnot, or at least like a longer history in the position, that intangible factor is one that's going to be hard to replace. So I do ultimately agree with the call that G2 could end up worse, but I also don't really think that's, how do I put this? Like Perkz sounded like he was on the way out anyways. From the rumors that Travis had been hearing for a long time, he was not happy really playing AD carry. He wanted to go back to mid. G2 basically said, well, we like Caps more. And so at that point, you have to leave if you're Perkz. And at that point, if you're G2, you have to replace him. And Rekkles is basically the best replacement you could ever hope for the West.
Cheese?
I say that's a fair point. Like, I guess if he was already on the way out, Rekkles is probably like the best replacement possible. But to each their own. I still think it would have been better if he stayed on Fnatic, but yeah.
I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of Fnatic fans that agree with you, Cheese, so I don't think you're alone in that. Is there anything you want to shout out before we go on to the next caller?
I just want to shout out, I'm kind of a new fan of your show. I just saw like on YouTube a couple of your VODs, and I thought it was really cool.
Oh, thank you.
Like your principle of the show and stuff. I saw the VODs, and I'm like, I really want to get in the show.
Nice.
How long ago was this? How many tries did it take for you to get on?
Actually, this is my first time, so I'm
there you go.
really grateful.
Nice.
Thank y'all.
Wait,
did
you just find, did like YouTube algorithm just recommend you?
Yeah, YouTube algorithm, like y'all YouTube algorithm recommended me to y'all, and it was just like
did you know who Travis was before? I assumed, right?
Yeah, I assume I knew.
Okay.
Yeah. But I didn't know like he had this kind of show where like, normal people like me get to talk, make a voice our opinions. I think is really cool of y'all.
Yeah.
And also, the first episode I watched was, I don't know if you remember that Mahmood filler.
Yep.
Yeah, that I thought, I don't really agree with a lot of his views on politics, but he does have good takes. I'll give him that. I did agree with him there. But, and he's quite the funny individual. I'll give him that too.
Great. Well, I'm glad Hotline League is slowly expanding into geopolitical commentary. Cheese, thank you so much for the call. It's great to have you on. And I'm glad to hear you were able to make it on here so quickly. It's fun.
Happy Thanksgiving, y'all. I'll see y'all.
Yeah, we'll catch you next time.
Hopefully again.
Yeah.
Have a good one. Happy Thanksgiving.
I mean, I don't know if we're commenting on geopolitical situations as much as we're smoothing them over and bringing people together.
Yes, it's true.
We're finding
we're
common
bringing
ground.
People together. Speaking of that, I guess Joe Marsh released a statement talking about the LS
I saw
stuff.
that. Yeah.
I'm pulling it up, but what's
You want to take a second? Because I didn't see any calls about it yet. But
first off, I already know I dislike this because it's on Twitlonger.
Is this on T1's Twitter?
It's on Twitlonger. Joe Marsh tweeted it.
Okay,
I don't think
I was
it's
wondering the source.
the T1 Twitter account retweeted it.
Okay, just trying to get there.
But it is, and it looks like he tweeted it twice. And he tweeted it once in Korean and once in, and both of them are on Twitlonger, which is just whatever. So it's I'm gonna be honest, I don't have enough time to read all of it right now live on the show. It'd be kind of weird.
Oh, it's kind of long, yeah.
He says, I'd like to apologize for the unacceptable messages that were left on our Discord for far too long. So that's about the fact that they were veering away from moderating against some stuff because they were, I guess, nervous about that. And there was a lot of controversy around the stuff that they did leave on the Discord. Glad to see that they're recognizing that. Also apologizing for about different stuff. I haven't been following along all of this, so there's even some stuff in here that I don't truly understand. But apologies to Effort for the Discord message leak, and then a big apology to LS for all the stuff that happened. They says that they filed police reports to investigate stuff that happened with his family, which is pretty spooky. And he said, as I've reflected over this time, I realize I failed to publicly defend and protect LS and T1 fans by remaining silent. While my staff and I were working behind the scenes to resolve this matter, I should have spoken publicly sooner. Shortly, LS will personally share his plans. And once again, LS and T1 fans, I'm sorry. Okay, so word from LS is supposed to come out soon as well.
Yeah.
That was a unfun period of the off season, for sure. Pretty disappointing to sort of see how everything is shooken out in that.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to like what the caller was saying about like the Mahmood call. I mean, what that ultimately was about LS and T1 and all this stuff, you know, and like regardless of whether you are a fan of LS or not, like that was going to be a really exciting period to see what was going to happen. And I'm definitely sad that. Well, I don't know what's going to happen yet. I guess LS might still be there, but it sounded like it was going that he might not now because of somehow how T1 was wording things and whatnot. So I don't know. The whole situation just was super fucking lame. And like it was so widespread too. Like them Whippo and Dom and Thorn were getting in on it and stuff. And like I don't know. It was just like the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying any of these apologies or the conversations were good or bad or not. I'm just saying that like.
I mean, I think you and I sat on the sidelines of this, right? Like in a way that like a lot of other people weighed in on it, and it just seemed like a train wreck from all angles, with a lot of unfortunate people getting hurt in ways that they shouldn't have been, and some really fucked up stuff that happened. And so it's just like.
Yeah, I mean, like when that announcement came out, our call was centered around how he would do as the coach, and then like you get. The conversation is not about that at all, which is generally not stuff we talk about. So like, we're definitely more on the sideline about those issues because it was like, well, what am I going to add to this, really?
Yeah.
Bummer.
All right. Anyway, I'll leave. Again, I don't think we've had enough time to sort of read this full Twitlonger, and again, I definitely feel like this should have been at least on Medium or something. But I'll leave it to everybody, and perhaps maybe we'll talk about it next week if it feels like it's still a relevant topic. But if not, hopefully this kind of lays it to rest and people can start to find a path forward. All of our best wishes to LS for all the stuff that he's had to deal with.
Yeah. Next caller.
Yeah. Off Mark goes, thank you to Spencer Neutron for the 32 months at Tier 3. Holy moly, I really appreciate you for being a Tier 3 sub. That's very nice of you. And I am Elvis4. Thank you for the 31 months. Balls D333P. Thank you for the 2 months of being a Prime sub. Appreciate that. All right, Mark is still grabbing the next caller. Thank you to everyone who's been supporting my content, by the way. We've had some really great couple of months, and I've been putting out a lot of different types of content, I think, than... Well, I shouldn't say different. I've done content like that a lot in the past, but definitely more of this kind of talk-to-camera content than I normally do in this period of time, so I appreciate it. PirateNoodles is here. PirateNoodles, where are you calling from?
Calling from Orange County, California.
Orange County, California. And what do you want to talk about on the show?
Pretty much that I think the fate of the LCS will be decided on whether or not CLG does well this season. If they do well, the rookie hype will die out really fast. If they don't, it will be the final cherry on top and ending all the washed out veteran teams and all the washed out veteran talent.
Okay, so why do you think this? Because we should say like the CLG roster is not a bunch of rookies.
Yeah, I can read it out if you want. It's pretty much Finn in the top lane, which is a European import of who did not do that well last year. Broxa in the jungle, Pobelter in mid lane, Wild Turtle ADC, and Smoothie support.
Okay, and so go ahead. Do you want to expand on your take a little bit?
Yeah, so pretty much I think the way that LCS is approaching rookies right now is very risky. With Immortals, Dignitas, and Golden Guardians pretty much having 4 or 5 rookies on one team, I think the proper way to approach it and the safer way is to do it like how Team Liquid, TSM did with Spica and Tactical. But given that they're kind of like gambling all their marbles in one basket right now, if it doesn't go as well as they plan, this will be really bad for rookies in the future and will have a bad stigma around them, with teams and the community turning against rookie players and going back to how it used to be, kind of.
So you almost, it's an interesting take, actually. It makes CLG like the goalpost, like the floor. Like you have to do better than CLG, otherwise you are not going to look great as a rookie roster. Interesting.
Yeah, and I think they have some time because they have the entire season, and if your rumors are true, it's a pretty good like time to get things developed, and hopefully some of the talent will show. But if not, I think the community will have really hard backlash on the teams on an aspect of scouting and blaming it on that, and that'll make the teams kind of fall back to their safety net of going to these washed up players or players who've kind of already had their chance and showed not that good of ceilings.
I mean, it's crazy to me that we talk about players that made it to Worlds as washed up players. Like, and maybe this is not what you're talking about, Noodles, I apologize, but I released that video today talking about some of the big names that are not competing next year. Like, there are players on there, I mean, we'll see, maybe he ends up on a team, but like, Solo made it to Worlds and like, you know, was represented as being, you know, a player on a top 3 team. I get that FlyQuest did not do well at Worlds, but like, this is not, we're not talking about players that have consistently failed to make playoffs, right? We're talking about players that have done really well. So it's crazy to me that our baseline now has gotten so high for like washed up or whatever, or so low, depending on how you put it, that like, I don't know, people are saying stuff like that. I think
this is a really interesting call. I'm not sure I agree 100% with it, but I like the general idea of it because
I like it a lot.
Because like thinking about Hunter's perspective, right? If you're one of these teams who's in this kind of Moneyball low budget team, you know, what does Solo bring to you, or a player like that, right? Like you are largely developing talent with potentially as you know, Hunter said, like you have to find someone who's going to match with that idea that like, hey, we're not really a Worlds contending team. That's not our goal. If we make it, great, we want to make Worlds, everyone's going to do their best, but that's not necessarily the objective. And Solo, having been to Worlds, like you're saying, maybe we don't know how negotiations went. Maybe he talked to some of these teams and he was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go on a team with 4 rookies, right? So like, I think that could be a reason that you see more talent, kind of like decent talent, you know, not washed as you're saying, but not quite superstar talent and not really willing to compromise potentially on these lower level teams. So like I could see a world where that's actually the bigger driving force, is like these ends don't meet, even though there's plenty of respect for people of that caliber.
Yeah, I think the reason why I'm nervous for the rookies and the rookie teams next year is because of the way that the Ryoma and Poom stuff went, right? Like 100 Thieves this year said, hey, we're going to try to develop talent. We're going to bring in these names. The names got, like, Ryoma and Poom got flamed pretty hard. One analyst even called them #PooGang. You know, like, that was
Poom
pretty
didn't
out
get
of line.
flamed that hard, to be fair.
By the community. By the community,
only,
I think.
It was only in that series. It wasn't really like he I don't think during the regular season he was getting flamed that hard, I guess is what I'm saying.
I think they were both getting flamed pretty hard by the community and getting. I mean, enough that like Nate.
Was. I just don't think you can lump them together.
Let's put it this way: there's a clip of Nate shot that I saw. Did you see that one on the Reddit where on the subreddit where he's like, "Oh,
yeah, I didn't really agree with what he was saying."
Yeah, I didn't agree with what he was saying either. But he was saying like, the problem with League is that everyone expects results and for you to be the best team ever, and like we came in against teams like TL and C9 or whatever, like. This year, 100T said, we're going to try to develop some talent. We're going to try to build out this roster. We're going to try to find these new names. And then what did they do? They go pick up 4 players from Golden Guardians.
Well, and, dude, they fucking had Meteos, Someday, Cody-san, and Stunt, and Ryoma. They weren't developing talent, really. They took a chance on one mid laner, and Stunt at that point, I think, played at the level that he had played at for most of his career. So, like, I don't even agree with the idea that they tried to develop talent. Like, 100 Thieves Next is developing talent. I love what they're doing with developing talent. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the org is not trying to develop talent, but I'm saying that the original roster that they signed in spring was not a development roster. It had, like, fucking 20 years of experience probably on the starting lineup. So, like, we're getting really off topic, but I don't think 100 Thieves ever tried to do what Golden Guardians is trying to do this year, or FlyQuest, or a lot of these orgs are
yeah,
doing.
I guess I'm just super curious to see how the community perceives it, because I think right now, I can agree with this caller a lot, PirateNoodles, because I think there's a very good chance that all these people who are so hyped, the moment Golden Guardians is 0-8 at the start of the season, or they... I guess there's what I've said is that there's supposed to be this like kickoff tournament. Yeah. The moment that they just bust her out super hard in the kickoff tournament, and like some of the other rookie teams do too, people are going to be hard flaming these players, and I don't know. I think it's interesting, right? That like I know what you mean about 100T, but I think it's interesting that it's not like they're like, okay, well we don't. We're going to put Ryoma Academy and we're going to try again with some other stuff. Like, their response to 1 year of, like, not having success was to just go in and, like, find proven talent and acquire them, and stick them with the world champion.
Where I was coming from, too, seeing, like, what happened with 100 Thieves. But to kind of, like, counteract what I was saying earlier, actually, you can look at the other end of the spectrum at FlyQuest, which I'm honestly the most excited about this team. They have Licorice, which is a steady and consistent top laner who has a lot of experience. Josedeodo, who is an up-and-coming jungler who's shown himself at the world stage, even though it was just play-ins. Palafox and Diamond, 2 academy players that have been in it for a pretty long time now and have shown themselves. And then Johnson, one of the best AD carries from last year that was shown himself too. So I think that approach to bringing up talent is the one that is shown to work, counteracting what like Golden Guardians and Immortals are doing, which I think won't actually pay off.
I think it's hard to say because what payoff means is still up in the air a little bit. I don't. Moving on from the 100 Thieves points, just like CLG, EG, some of these rosters that have largely veteran talent, but are not in the top 3 or whatever. I saw your eyebrows go up there, Travis. What was that?
Nothing. I'll explain in a second.
I was gonna say those teams, if any of them, if they're just stomping the rookies and that's what happens all year long, I think you might have a pretty good point here about like CLG and these level teams being kind of a bar that by the end of the split people want probably them getting contested, assuming that they are these 5th, 6th, 7th place teams. I hope that fans give more of a leeway at the beginning and give this ramp up period. And we're looking more at summer to judge somewhat how this is going, and even into the 2021 off season. And I think what Hunter was saying about like the broadcast and our responsibility to tell the stories of these teams accurately, I don't want to pose like, hey, FlyQuest or Golden Guardians, go beat Broxa and Pobelter and all these teams, or and like go toe to toe with them week 1. Like, I don't think we'll be saying that and posing that as their objective, and I don't think the orgs will be doing that with their own messaging. So I hope fans are able to step back from the usual reactions that they have when someone immediately fails and give a little bit more breathing.
I'm sure the audience that watches LCS will be patient and kind and
As
friendly
always.
and supportive and celebrate the small victories on the path to bigger success and forgive
Especially Reddit and Twitter.
the failures. Yeah. The reason my eyebrow went up earlier was because I was laughing because we went in on 100T and I tried to get Papa Smithy originally for the second half of the show. And then he's like, I can't make it on because I'm doing another show, and he had some like stuff he was doing, and so he's like, today's not a good day, but I'll be in chat. And I'm like, yeah, well, chat about this, Papa Smithy. Anyway, sorry.
Did we even go in on 100? I don't know if that was going in.
No, I'm just teasing.
Yeah.
Fudge in the chat did say Papa Smithy about to hop on and scream at Mark.
Yeah, he's gonna fight me. I'm always
Pirate
down for a little
Noodles.
scrap.
I think your take. I like your take a lot.
Yeah.
And I think I'm not sure if I agree with it 100%, but I might agree with it 90%, right? Which is like, on one, if you are holding up FlyQuest or Golden Guardians, and you're comparing it to CLG, it's like, okay, in one corner we've got tried and true veterans that have received criticism for not being top of the league, which is what a lot of LCS players have been for many years. And on the other hand, you've got fresh faces, some people that have gained a bit of a rookie reputation. How are these two going to face off? And I do think that it is fair to say that like there could be a really interesting narrative there. So.
And also, I think, he might be right about what people will do, but they shouldn't do that. Like, people will look at that clash and just see it as 1-to-1. This team's better, therefore, the veterans deserve their spots always. And I think it's probably gonna be more nuanced than that.
Yeah, it's true. Hey, Pirate, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we move on to the next caller?
Yeah, just wanted to shout out Captain Flowers for winning the play-by-play caster award. He's been one of my favorite casters, and also hope LS is doing well with everything going on in his life.
Yeah.
And that he comes back to streaming soon. So yeah.
Very good. Well, thank you so much, Pirate Noodles. Have a good one.
Thank you.
On to the next caller. Thank you, 23 Chicken Wings, for the Prime. I've not eaten yet. I need to figure out a dinner situation after this, so I really hope... Anybody have any suggestions? I'm thinking In-N-Out. In-N-Out might be good. Nicole is here. Not a Nicole affiliated with any LCS team, but Nicole, where are you calling from?
Vancouver, Canada.
Vancouver, Canada. What do you want to talk about on the show?
So my take... sorry.
You're good.
I'll just explain it. So basically, I was saying that it's not in TSM's interest to kind of like cater to Doublelift's needs this season of wanting, an import support, because really they've thrown away all their developmental pieces in order to cater to this. It all fell through, and now they're literally left with no roster option because everyone was already signed.
So wait, sorry, are you suggesting that Doublelift is the reason they're in this situation?
I would say so. I think Doublelift is totally justified to demand like a good roster. I just don't think it's in TSM's interest to really cater to that.
Okay.
Like, I think Doublelift's expectations, those are fine, but I don't think TSM should follow through with them at all.
So what? People are gonna think I'm defending Peter. I'm more just asking for clarity.
But you are.
If Peter is saying like, hey, I want you to go build a team that will bring me back to Worlds, and like, how is that not in TSM's best interest? Wouldn't it be in their interest to try to create like an all-star team or to have a great support?
Oh, totally. But if you're trying to create an all-star team, you need to be able to create an all-star team. Obviously, they weren't really able to get the players they wanted, right? And so now their new options, that's not even going to get them to Worlds in the first place, let alone get them that international success. So... yeah,
it's a little bit of hindsight bias, but I
for sure
understand the point a little bit. Like, I don't know what happened with like Huni versus Licorice and the contract negotiations, and maybe it was
Yeah.
better to get Huni over Licorice, but like I'm in the boat, I think, with a lot of fans where I'm like, why isn't that, like the package deal thing would have had to happen? Maybe Double doesn't want to play with Diamond, or like who knows why it fell apart. But it's hard to look at a lot of these roster moves, I think, and get super stoked. Huni, I think people hate on him too much, but
yeah,
there's a reason that there is some criticism there. And if you can't get a superstar support, and then Peter retires and you get this new bot lane, then what was the point of signing Huni and PoE? And now you're in this awkward mismatch that we were kind of talking about with some of the other rosters. You're halfway new players and whatnot. I think the idea of reloading made sense. I think grabbing PoE, it's not the most attractive pickup, not the splashiest one that I think people were hoping for, but he's really good. He made All Pro last year, and he deserves it. But
for sure,
yeah, it's one where I think, I don't know what went on behind the scenes when Bjergsen moved to coach, but I wonder if they had a decision about whether they tried to reload or rebuild. Like, do we look at Spica and maybe some other of the players that we think have long-term futures and look more at them? Like, could they have grabbed that Golden Guardians deal in some capacity or something like that? Replace Doublelift with the guy that beat him. I don't know.
I think
I'm questioning I think everyone's questioning the TSM roster moves at this point.
Yeah. So this is going to be a ton of speculation on my point. So please, everyone, take it as speculation. But one rumor I have heard is that PoE it was very expensive to get PoE, and it kind of makes sense because in a world where, especially when we didn't know Perkz was coming over. I probably knew, but other people, maybe some of the understand. You've got Bjergsen retiring. People seem to say Jensen will be uncontested. So grabbing the second best mid laner in the league probably feels pretty damn good. And so there was probably a pretty big bidding war to try to get PoE on your team. So if you're going to go with him, then you should actually, TSM might have actually gotten themselves in a really tight spot if they can't build a compelling roster, because they might be paying a ton of money to PoE to essentially have a development team, which I think will be super fascinating. So I guess to take a couple steps back, we had Reggie Collin on the show last week. He seemed very confident about the money that they were going to be spending. I think if you are Reggie, Bjergsen's retiring, you want to make sure that you can keep Peter, you go and you're going to spend a bunch of money on PoE. I think in your mind, your plan is we're just going to go big with this roster because we don't want to slip with losing the king from the mid lane. And then you kind of end up in this situation. Now it's really awkward. So I doubt that there was too much of a thought on maybe we should get the 4 players from Golden Guardians, or maybe we should build out a development team. I think they were always going to go big, and now things are looking really spooky. What was it that Reggie tweeted? Life is unpredictable or something like that?
Wasn't that Jack? Even the best laid plans fall apart. Did Reggie have one too?
Yeah. Yes. So, Jack seemed to be trolling, perhaps last-minute negotiating with Carlos, but the Andy stuff seems like it's a little bit more spooky. So I don't know. I know we've kind of gone off the topic from the Nicole thing, but I guess you're suggesting, Nicole, that TSM should cut their losses, that they should now say okay, we can't build this team for you, Doublelift, be free, and everybody, and now we're going to go build a development team.
Doublelift's going to leave anyways, right? If they don't get that import support. So not only have you lost all your key pieces trying to make room for that import support and other players, but you're losing Doublelift as well, right? Yeah. So I think it is, like you mentioned, it is a lot of hindsight bias, because if all these deals went through, this really wouldn't have been much of a take. But just seeing how bad it can go if those deals don't fall through, I think the safest thing, I agree with the PoE move. I think that's a really beneficial mid laner to have, especially if you're trying to bring up a lot of young talent. You can't just throw in a rookie mid as well as have Spica. Maybe they keep Broken Blade. That's a lot of young, crazy talent that you kind of need to settle. I think PoE's a great player for that. But no, I think a lot of it really I don't think Doublelift is really obviously he had a bad split, but I think it's just best to kind of move on from that. Like, I don't think he's going to be the player to really, really rally up your entire team. And of course, you want to rally up an entire team of rookies, but like, I don't think he's the player you should be building around if you want to have a future for that org. Like, Bjergsen's gone, I would just say move on, honestly. So yeah, I would have. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say, like, I think it would have been better for them to look almost. I'm not sure how much of the Ignar deal was, already set in stone. I don't know if you would have considered coming, but I would have loved to see a lost Ignar bot lane, because I think Ignar, he's really, really roam heavy. If you have somebody like PoE who demands a lot of resources, as well as keeping Spica, I think those three, I think that could work out really well, especially to like help Spica, give PoE the resources he needs, and then maybe try to get one of those Licorice or Impact deals so that you can have like a weaker side top laner, so that you don't really have to worry about them and really focus into PoE, because he can totally be the carry for your team. So I would have loved to see something like that, instead of we're going to throw all our chips into Doublelift, even though we may only get a few more seasons out of him anyways. So
I don't know. I think
it's a lot. Sorry.
No,
I
it's
went
fine.
all over the place.
I think the reason why, if you are Andy and you hear Bjerg is retiring, you try to retain Doublelift, is because you have for all these years been the most popular and just like a very dominating team. Now, obviously, they didn't make Worlds the last couple of years, but like as a brand, they had this reputation of being great. And every time they didn't make Worlds, it was a big deal. So it's probably pretty, like, I'm not surprised that they wanted to spend big this offseason, because it is really scary. I don't think that fans think enough about how much anxiety, I'm guessing, some of these owners, especially the ones that have built a legacy and are afraid of losing it, have. Especially at these moments where it seems like it could risk. Like, I'm not surprised. I see Jack in the chat. I'm not surprised that Jack, after having not made Worlds for the first time, was like, how much money is it going to cost, Carlos? How much money is it going to cost? So, it's just, I think it's not surprising to me that TSM ended up going the direction they did, and even if they fell short of that.
Well, so one thing, I agree. I mean, I think I understand the point, but if you're going to go big, I think you actually have to commit to going big, which is something that TSM's never actually done.
I mean, this year I think they were going to.
But as you heard Hunter say, they won the auction for Licorice. Supposedly, right?
The top lane thing is the only thing that's confusing. It seems to be that they feel, the sense I get, I mean, this is not necessarily even from sources, but like Andy said, you okay, Nicole?
Yeah, I dropped my phone.
The sense I get is that, because Andy said last week they got the exact roster they wanted. Now, clearly that didn't end up happening, but like they seem to think, and based off stuff that Jack has said publicly, that like Huni was the better option than Licorice. So I don't think that it was a situation where they couldn't afford, they didn't want to shell out the dollars for Licorice. I think they literally thought Huni's better than Licorice. And I know there's going to be a bunch of Keck W's in the chat, but like that's what the evidence seems to suggest. And then they went big in the mid lane, and they were going to go big in support. They have Doublelift, who I assume is, even if I'm guessing his contract is pretty low because he didn't, try to go to market with it. He's pretty expensive. And Spica's this like really well-proven rookie. Like, they had a great setup, and they were going to spend a lot.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, yeah, maybe they thought they were reloading better than they were. It's hard to say, because I don't think on paper people would be that jazzed about that lineup. And I think it's also fair. One thing we didn't really even say during this call was Doublelift didn't have it that impressive of a year. I mean, even though he made Worlds and whatnot, like, through playoffs, he was not like this pub stomper carrying his team or anything like that. Even when TSM was doing well, didn't have a great split on TL. I think, there's that whole angle to take it. I wouldn't necessarily agree with it, but I think some people might say, like, should you be? Is he still a franchise player? I still think yes, but if you're going to have this really difficult time rebuilding already.
I mean, I don't think they knew they were going to have this difficult plan. Life is unpredictable, to quote.
Reloading's always difficult when you have especially bigger spenders. Like, they haven't ever outspent their competition. How are you
Yeah.
going to get the talent if you're
He
never
said
actually
that they were going to.
But then they didn't again.
I know, but I'm just saying now we're definitely using hindsight on this. I mean, I'm just like, it's yes. Now we know that they didn't get the thing, but it seemed like they were gonna get the thing, and they were gonna spend a lot to get the thing.
Well, I'm just saying that like, could they not have gotten Perkz? Did they not have the money? I mean, if he's the hottest thing since sliced bread, you know,
I don't know.
were they even in the
That's
running?
a good question. I mean, the rumor was that Perkz wanted to play with Sven, and Jack had said, I believe publicly, I'm paraphrasing because I didn't watch the full video, that Perkz turned down money to go play with C9. So maybe they did try to make a run at Perkz, and it just didn't end up happening.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, then fair enough. Then this is totally hindsight bias, and even the best laid plans fall apart. Maybe Jack was tweeting about Reggie. We just didn't know it.
I think Perkz really wanted to play with C9 Fudge. I think that was his big thing. He's like, I don't care about Doublelift.
You saw Fudge in the chat, so you're just picking out whichever random pro player on C9.
Well,
to
there was a great tweet that happened where I tweeted out the C9 roster, and somebody replied and was like, Perkz really leaving like this amazing roster to go play with some dude named Fudge, and I added Fudge. And Fudge was like, "Yeah, it's true." I was like, "This is great."
Even in the video where they were announcing Perkz, he was like running down the roster. He was like, "Yeah, really excited to play with Sven again, and this, and this." And he's like, "Fudge, I don't really know anything about him. Please don't suck."
Yes. Yeah. Anyway, any final thoughts, Nicole, or shout-outs on this stuff?
Can I shout out myself? Can I self promo or no?
Yeah,
Is it
so
a podcast?
I think you can
It's
self
not.
promo. At some point in time, I had stopped saying self promos, and then because so many people were coming on and promoting all their own podcasts, and then somebody on YouTube got very angry with me about that. So go ahead.
I don't have a podcast, but I do stream on Twitch, so I would appreciate any support. I'll type in chat and let people know who I am.
What is your Twitch name?
It's Xskyla, so it's XSKLEYA.
There you go. I'm sure this.
Or wait, no.
This will be very effective for you. And
What I'm thinking.
Can I just say?
I don't think there's that many girls here, so
So last week, I tuned into a stream where they were talking about Hotline League, and they said Hotline League is a boys club. So I appreciate you calling in, because I think something happens where, like, I suspect women they feel like they can't call in because it's just nothing but dudes always calling into the show. So it's always really nice whenever somebody calls in and that doesn't have, like, I don't know. It's just nice.
Yeah, no, I think I've only ever seen like one other like female caller. So yeah, I gotta change that. And actually, yeah, I'd love to like talk kind of about the league culture and kind of like, I know it's like super cringy and cliche, but like women in gaming almost, because I think like it goes a lot deeper than a lot of people think. And so I don't know, but I feel like for this show, that's not really like a good take, like no one wants to really talk about that. So
I mean, if you want to call in and I mean, I think we've already done. We're getting close to 10. We have another 2 callers, but if you want to call in the future and talk about your experience, I'm super happy to give you that floor.
Okay, and I just want to say the chat's like kind of flaming me on that. I swear it's not cringy. I'm not here to say like, oh my god, like girls should like all be like gamers. No, I just want to talk about like why maybe there aren't as many like girls in play. Yeah. So yeah.
Twitch chat is not the place that I would go for.
Yeah, I would.
They've been nice so far.
They're not the most modern group of people. Anyway, thank you so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Of course, thank you guys.
Yeah, have a good one.
Bye.
All right, on to the next caller. Twitch chat, maybe you can all be not a bunch of ridiculous individuals. Xantos, thank you for the 5 months, and It's Obvious Who, thank you for the 3 months as well. We're on to the final 2 callers. Going a little bit over time this week, but that's fine. It looks like our next caller is here. Young Nick is here. Young Nick, where are you calling from?
Ooh. Whoa, that was not there when I pulled him.
I got a little bit of mic feedback. Can you try again? Young Nick?
Take 2.
Did we lose him?
Hello?
Okay, I'm gonna.
Yeah, Young Nick. Sorry, we're having some mic issues. I've turned you down, but we'll have to go. Mark is troubleshooting. Sorry about that, Twitch chat. Man, I'm gonna maybe have to fix that for the VOD. how long into the show is this? I don't know. We'll have to figure it out. Anyway, not his fault, I'm sure. Just he needs to get a Alienware headset. Alienware.com/Travis.
I don't know what happened. He sounded fine in waiting room. Sometimes stuff is.
Is he disconnecting and reconnecting, or
doing a disconnect, reconnect, and checking him again?
He's in play calls too. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Figuring the stuff out. How you guys doing, Twitch chat? What is the point of Twitch chat if we can't be ridiculous? I just don't ever want Twitch chat to be offensive. That's my
we got another person.
David is here. David, where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm David. I'm calling from Dallas, Texas. I'm not the caller that was meant to be here, but hey, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, you were in the waiting room. We just selected you at a different point in time.
Different time. And so, Mark, I had two takes. There was one about FlyQuest and one about the LCS's top lane aggression in general. Do you remember which one of those you?
It was the latter.
It was the latter. Okay. So my take is basically that I think the LCS will be a lot more aggressive this year in particular than it has been previous years for a lot of reasons. The import of a couple of new aggressive players, Perkz, Xerxe has been aggressive in the past. Last year was a weird year for him. Josedeodo is very aggressive player. We have a bunch of carry top laners now. Alfari, Licorice, someday plays carries pretty well. Fudge did some carry games in Academy, and so I don't know how that'll go. And I think all of the eager to impress rookies might also up the aggression a lot, maybe to the point of running it down a bit.
Eager to impress. I mean, there's this. I think if we're just saying rookies, I think there's just as much chance that they get scared and get run over. I don't think that rookies are generally known for coming out and playing balls to the wall.
That's there's some contracts, but yeah, and then I think some of the safe ADCs have been pushed out of the league too. That's the last part of the take. I think Bang is not there anymore.
The whole rookie aggression thing, I think it's hit or miss depending on the environment that they're joining. Because if you're like the new guy who's just supposed to be there, like a Team Liquid situation, though tactical was aggressive, I think sometimes that's the time where you see less aggression. But I also think the environment, if it's still remote, I think that's not really decided, but I think it's leaning towards that with how things are going. It's pretty likely that it's still remote the start of spring. Could be good for rookie aggression. And overall, I agree, like a lot of the names that are coming in should be aggressive. I think when you look at the list of some of the ones not coming back, there's still aggression on there. But generally speaking, I think I'm excited for a lot of the new players, like you're talking about with Josedeodo, and it's not all just about top lane, though there are a couple new ones and stuff. I just think generally there's not many players where I'm like, that guy likes to play safe and he's coming over to join the league.
David, you don't understand that we ruin these players.
That's true.
We do?
LCS. And so these players will come over here and they will stay back in lane and they will farm, and there will be some posturing outside of Dragon between the two teams. But ultimately, after a couple skill shots, one of the teams will just slowly walk away and cede the Dragon to the other team. So that, I think, is what you should be expecting, not that any of these players will actually play aggressive.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah, sure.
This is how the show works, right? Yeah. I think the proliferation of Cloud9 players might do something about that, just because I think Reaper is one of the only coaches who you've seen consistently is willing to make his players play aggressively. And now there's a fair amount of former Cloud9 guys who are on various teams and have leadership roles on those teams, and there's a fair amount of former Reaper assistant coaches who are now head coaches. And so I just think it might be a slightly different meta this year in terms of how aggressive people play. We won't see as much hanging out around Dragon for an hour.
I also think that there's a chance that with how the league has changed, not just like with the players, hopefully the mindset changes as well for some teams. So it's not just all new players who are bringing it in, but some of the old players might hopefully adapt to see how people reacted to the TSM 9-man sleep or whatever it is. So I'm hoping that these younger players coming in see how fans are, like how orgs have seen how fans want a new talent. New talent can see how fans want aggression, and that they might be more lenient to a 0-10 Fiora this year or whatever it is. I'm hoping that fans are more lenient about that. Like we watched Bin and Nuggery both have these horrible Fiora games. People just int on Fiora. You know, these are the best top laners in the world inting on Fiora. Okay, so have a little bit of leeway when rookie guy comes in, when Niles inevitably picks some weird carry in the top lane. Like he played Ryze at Scouting Grounds when I was watching. You know, like he's going to play something aggressive. He's probably going to run it down. Have a little bit of leeway when that happens. I'm hoping that mindset carries over, not just with the fact that we're getting the talent, but how they approach the game.
Yeah, I'm really curious. I mean, one of the things I really enjoyed about Josedeodo this year, even though I know he got a ton of flame, was that he was frustrated by how passive LCS players were in lane and tried to go big. And like, yes, you know, he would int or whatever, but like he did bring a different level of aggression to the game in a way that like North American mid laners just generally weren't playing. So if we can see more of that stuff, and I mean, it sounds like he's going to be starting for EG as well. So I don't know. I'm excited to sort of see. I would love it. Look, there's like a beautiful path to redemption for our league this year where like these rookies come in, they struggle, but like the format changes allows them to look really good by summer or at least better. You know, C9 looks great. They go not only out of groups, but they make it further into Worlds than we have in quite some time. TL looks competitive. Like there's a path here for us to feel good about ourselves again. And I am always looking for a path to feel good about myself again.
I've given up long ago.
For all of us to feel.
No,
anyway,
it's gone.
David, I appreciate the take. It sounds like Mark and I agree. Is there anything you want to shout out before we go to our last caller?
Not really. I'll just throw out like the spiciest take. Even if TSM had gotten everyone they wanted, they still would implode due to ego problems. So, all right.
Nice shout out.
That's what I want to shout out. Yeah.
Well, catch you next time. Mark, you want to go see if our friend has fixed his microphone? Twitch chat really liked that take. Maybe that should have been the take. Would have been more dynamic, I guess. Where are we? Mark is trying emphatically to get this solved. Thank you to Subwoofer for the 5 months. And Kristen 2 for the 4 months. Mark is having him disconnect and reconnect. I'm seeing it in the chat. Giving you guys live updates on how this microphone situation is going. Very excited. Okay, I've got him turned down. We're going to see. Young Nick, are you here?
Yes. You sound great.
Awesome.
Where are you calling from?
Orlando, Florida.
Orlando, Florida. Okay, I'm turning you up. I'm just nervous, but go ahead and share your take.
Yeah, so basically my take was I think people should lay off Ocelote, and you got to give him some credit for putting Perkz in the position that he was in. And given what you said earlier in the show with, you know, Ocelote having some time to know what he was going to do with his roster, I think he did the best move of, you know, he was looking at caps and upset for a second. And then once Rekkles became a free agent, he hopped on that. And then he stood firm on the whole, you cannot join Fnatic, but I will give you the best opportunity elsewhere. And I think that he gave him that with C9 because I think this helps, you know, not just Perkz and C9, but it helps NA as a region because, you know, Xerxe just retired. There's a big vacuum for who can be the best mid, like MVP of NA, and Perkz can walk right into that role. And he has a nice, promising team of youngsters to do that with. And this is going to be like his project of like redefining the next era of NA.
Oh man, I already see the people angry in Twitch chat. It is so weird to me that there are people out there that legitimately think Carlos should have just been like, hey, Perkz, I will sacrifice millions and millions of dollars and my team's ability to find success in this region. Hashtag YOLO. Like, it's so crazy to me that this is like a take. Like, I guess I shouldn't think that it's that crazy because I get that fans are passionate and people are blinded by their passion, and they're like, hey, Perkz is like a great player, or I'm a big Fnatic fan, and like it sucks that this couldn't happen. So like maybe I should not be surprised that this is a big opinion of people. But welcome to, I'm not even a sports fan, and like I just think it's, and I even know that it's not a world where like in any other sport, traditional or otherwise, you know, big name teams would be like, yeah, sure, you're under contract with us, but we're just going to trade you for way, way, way less money to a team where you will dominate us just for the heck of it. You know, it's just like, it's so wild to me that this is like a take. I don't know.
Yeah,
Mark.
no, I agree. And I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I'm with Travis on this. I will say I understand people based off the sheep and wolf story that Perkz was talking about. Like, I think the angle that I can get behind a little bit is like more savvy business owners communicating with younger, more naive kids who just want to win when they're and kind of taking advantage of them potentially in terms of how, I don't know what rights or whatever is going on, but you know, even just verbal commitments and like, oh, you're always going to have a home here in G2 and what you're always be number one, and then guess what, Caps is a better mid laner and we got him now, so you can't play mid for us ever again, and so if you want to play mid, get out of here. You know, like those kinds of dealings and the way of people not liking that, I can understand that. It's a little, you know, scummy or what have you. But at the end of the day, a business is going to be a business, and every business is going to be a business, and the business interests are themselves pretty much all the time. Yes, there are orgs that can be a little bit nicer about it. You know, like FlyQuest. You know, there is this gradient, but most orgs and businesses are going to prioritize themselves first, number one, and there is no higher priority. Maybe they have some other nice priorities near that one, but you know, every org would make that decision. I think that most orgs would make that decision that Carlos made, and I think rather than like, and that should be expected. Like when you go into business with any of these kinds of things, that's what people are going to try and do. And you just need to go into that knowing that, and like if Perkz did get taken advantage of or whatever, or there are these promises that didn't end up getting fulfilled or whatever, I understand the animosity. And you know, it sucks that someone you get burned by that, but you know, that's the nature of the beast in a lot of ways.
So two things in here. One, somebody was claiming that Perkz said he wanted to stay closer to his family and didn't want to move. I will just say, I hear a lot of stuff during off season, as evidenced by how much shit I've gotten right. I have not heard once that like Perkz is being moved to North America against his will. It's just like not something I've heard. Maybe, like, I guess it's entirely possible that is the case, and I just have not heard it. But until I see, like, evidence of that, until I hear Perkz say this, or it's, like, widely reported by reputable people with great sources, like, I don't think that, I have yet to hear of any player being forced across an ocean against their will by LCS contract trades, or all esports contract trades. And it would be very surprising to me if this was the first time that happened. Secondly, Empire in chat said something that I think is really important. He said, the real take is that G2 players should not have extended 1.5 years before their contract ends. Really quickly, bear with me. I've been really happy because for a long time, the fans and the community never thought about how much it cost for teams to spend on their roster. And so it was like, well, why doesn't this team just get this player or these players or whatever? People didn't really think about budgets. And I think a combination of different things, some of my stuff, some of the other numbers coming out, changed perception. I think the next big thing that I beg of the community to start considering is when players re-sign or when they sign extensions or contract signing stuff. Guess what? Rekkles is on G2 right now because he didn't sign an extension and he explored free agency. Like, that is a decision that he made. And so I'm not trying to like blame Perkz or something like that, right? I'm not like, oh, this is Perkz. But players should consider the contract stuff, and when they make decisions about those contracts and when they re-sign them, the community should notice this, think about it, consider it, and factor it into the equation of like, okay, this player is not going to be able to join a team that they necessarily want to because they're under contract. There you go. That's my thing. Mark?
The other thing I was going to throw in there too is oh god, I lost it. Oh, people say Perkz built G2, and like, you know, both people, it's mutually beneficial. Like Perkz wasn't the one deciding their content. He wasn't the one signing other players. Sounds like he was helpful in getting them there by being such a beast himself, and probably had good relationships with a lot of players. But like, he wasn't GMing and running an org and being a CEO, which Carlos was doing. In the same way, you know, it's a mutually beneficial thing where both of them have reached newer heights together that they wouldn't have gotten. So like, at some point that relationship's going to end for whatever reason, whether it's retirement or whatnot. And like, I still, like I said, I understand the idea of like a less savvy player or, you know, younger person getting taken advantage of or whatever. But that's the angle that I can agree with. Otherwise, if we're just talking raw business, I think, you know, most people would do it what Carlos did from a strictly business decision from what we know on the outside.
I mean, traditionally, like, yeah, like this. I guess I should say, if people are upset by this, they should stop watching all esports.
I wouldn't say that. Please don't go anywhere.
I would say that because like this stuff is just going to keep happening. We are in a world now where players are signing. There's millions and millions of dollars at stake. You know, everybody wanted this to get big. Guess what? This is one of the downsides of it. Is that like decisions are not like, oh yeah, this is my bro, and there are great things that go along with it. But yeah, this is the thing. Mark is getting a girlfriend aggro, so maybe we have to wrap this up. But
yeah,
young Nick, any final? Sorry, I know we just used you as a launching point to rant, but
no, it's all good. I pretty much said what I wanted to say. I just want to say, been a longtime fan, been subscribed on YouTube since like you first started out, and it was you know, you were like doing state of the league stuff, and I just wanted to say, like, before Jacob Wolf was even a thing, it was Travis Gafford. So please follow the man, listen to the man. He's correct on everything. And I'm actually a esports betting writer, and I do like EU LCS news, you know, for some of the lines and stuff like that. And I always refer to your stuff because you're just on point all the time. And yes, thumbs up.
I can tell you, I'm not always right. There's one thing I will probably get wrong, which is Sneaky or Johnson to dig. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to.
I mean, no one said that.
But
you
yeah,
suck.
Either way, I appreciate. I really appreciate the kind words, young Nick, and I appreciate you calling on, and glad we were able to get your mic stuff sorted out.
No problem, man.
Yeah, have a good one.
Awesome job.
Somebody in chat, by the way, where was this? Somebody in chat said people are allowed to be upset. Hippo Squirrel said that, I think, in response to me saying people should stop watching. Yes, people are allowed to be upset. The problem is they're just going to get upset over and over and over again because stuff like this is going to happen more and more. So we'll see how it folds out. But I'm pretty sure people are going to continue to be upset if they don't like it whenever business-minded people make business-minded decisions. Mark, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm excited. Great episode. I got a shout out at Brandon Sanderson reading Rhythm of War. Can't wait.
Okay. Mark really needs to leave, clearly. So thanks so much to Mark for being my constant co-host for 150 episodes. It feels like
Big 150.
We were 100, but I appreciate that. Thanks to Hunter for coming on the show. It's Thanksgiving week. Hope everyone in the U.S. Safely enjoys whatever meal they wish to enjoy. And maybe be a bit of a quieter week for us at Travis Gafford Industries because of that. But thanks everyone for watching. This has been Hotline League episode 150.
All right, catch you later, dude.